ashamed of yourself for having that thought.
Thanks, Jeff, for the question.
In the Ice Age, how much taxes did people pay?
Your name, please? Mr. Morelli.
Do you know what we're here for?
What now?
Close it up, just like my wife's vagina.
It's a great day for being sad. Your name, please?
I don't want reality.
He looks good, and he looks hard.
Jesus, I say that.
Oh, it never occurred to me.
Interesting.
It's just crazy enough to work. Yeah.
Well, looks like it's that time again. Good to see you all so far, shuffling in from around the galaxy. Got a lot to cover today, so we better get right to it. Time for us to take a little bit of a journey. Where shall we start today? That is the question. Well, I figured I would start the stream slightly different, just to sort of break things up a little bit. Don't worry, it's gonna be much of the usuals, but first, figured we'd look at this little tidbit from the Associated Press. June 22nd. Today in history. Whoa.
June 22nd, 1940. France falls to Nazi Germany during World War II, forced to sign an armistice 8 days after German troops overrun Paris. On the same day, a year later, the Nazis invade the Soviet Union, a move that proves disastrous for Adolf Hitler's Third Reich. 1945. During the final months of World War II, the Battle of Okinawa ends in the Pacific. The United States secures the Japanese island after nearly 12 weeks of fighting that's among the war's bloodiest. 1938. Heavyweight boxing champ Joe Louis knocks out Germany's Max Schmeling in round 1 of their rematch. Announcer Clem McCarthy is ringside for the fight at New York's Yankee Stadium.
Right and left to the head, a left to the jaw, a right to the head, and Donovan is watching carefully. Lewis measures him, right to the body, a left up to the jaw, and Schmeling is down.
1969.
Uh-oh. I might get
In
copyright
London,
struck for
singer
that.
and actress Judy Garland dies of an
Judy,
accidental
stop singing,
overdose
please.
of sleeping pills. She was 47. And 1987.
God damn it, Frank. You too. You need to stop singing too,
Actor
pal.
and dancer Fred Astaire,
Oh,
who
Fred
teamed
Astaire,
up
whatever
with
your name
Ginger
is.
Rogers on the silver screen, dies in
Frank.
Los Angeles at age 88. Today in history, June 22nd, Ross Simpson, The Associated Press.
Well, I figured we would just take a little traipse through history on other June 22nd before we get going here. Wait, hold on a second though. I gotta do something. Okay, I'm back. Okay, what are we gonna start with for real? Oh, this. So yesterday we talked about this. Do you get a support character? I don't know, do you? Do you have 10 likes already? Oh, 11 likes. Okay then. Supposedly you should. One would think that you deserve one. Alright, yes, let's start with this. This is from a day ago from the Associated Press. With Arkansas residents reacting to the shooting at the grocery store in Fordyce. Now, we looked at this yesterday. I believe 10 people were shot, 3 killed. Something like that. And this is residents reacting to that.
There's a shooting going on.
We come here for lunch all the time, get food. Basically, Fordyce is like a good vibe. So for people to do this, it's like, how can we get justice for the people who lost their lives for just coming to get lunch, just being out here doing what we do every day. You know, this is something scary. This is something.
Yeah, no kidding. No kidding. It's scary. Wait, hold on. I have to remember to give you your support character. What did I roll? An 8? It's an 8. Astrid Farnsworth in the house. Now, unfortunately, someone or some groups of people have convinced this woman that more police is the solution to the situation rather than just, I don't know, getting the guns out of Americans' hands, which they don't deserve.
Get rid of the Second Amendment.
But, yeah. I think anybody would be shaken up by just having your local grocery store shot up in the middle of the day. Alright, now let's look at a couple of things relating to politics. First, I just wanted to look at this. This is Mary Scanlon accusing the GOP of setting aside work to do the bidding of former President Donald Trump.
I don't want reality.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And as the chairman acknowledged, we didn't start at 10. We started nearly an hour late, or just over an hour late, because he and his Republican colleagues had prioritized a meeting with Donald Trump over a committee hearing.
I love how Jim Jordan just runs out the room the second she starts talking.
And presumably they received their latest marching orders to weaponize congressional power against our criminal justice system, because that's what we're seeing here today. It's outrageous. Over and over again, this Congress, we've seen House Republicans set aside congressional work, the people's business, to do the former president's bidding, as he seeks to avoid justice and accountability for his numerous misdeeds. Their members, including the House Speaker, have spent hours injecting themselves into these state court proceedings and standing outside the Manhattan courthouse instead of working on legislative business to serve the American people. They don't seem to understand that they were elected to serve their constituents, not the disgraced, twice impeached, and now convicted leader of the party. So why are we here in today's hearing? Because 2 weeks ago, a jury of Donald Trump's peers, 12 American citizens, found him guilty of criminal conduct. Now, those jurors were selected by both the prosecution and Mr. Trump. Those jurors considered all of the evidence presented to them by the prosecution and by the former president, not just the evidence or, as is so often the case, the alternative facts that are selectively presented by social media, cable pundits, or political spin doctors, including some of those here today. Because unlike our political sphere, that's how our justice system works. The jurors performed their civic duty, they did their job, and when they applied the law to the evidence, they determined that the former U.S. president was guilty of 34 felonies.
So yeah, for a hearing, which was being held by the House Judiciary Committee to investigate the Manhattan District Attorney's Office over Trump's being convicted in a court of law, they were late by an hour because they were having a meeting with Donald Trump himself behind closed doors to, I guess, shore up details on what they're going to allege in this committee hearing. It's pretty wild just how entrenched they are in, as she said, doing the bidding of Donald Trump. They don't want to accept a state court's ruling, even though they love state courts. They hate federal ones, but instead they're having a federal hearing on a state. It's odd. It's very odd.
I feel like I'm taking crazy pills.
Okay. Now let's look at this. I was on the verge of having us watch this whole thing just because of how fucking outrageous this is. I tried to get through it, but it's just woof. Maybe tomorrow on Sunday Fun Day. But let's just quickly look at this. This was Trump at the what's it called? The Faith and Freedom it's like a political event, right? They have like it's like a rally essentially for people who love faith and freedom simultaneously. And Trump came in and, of course, perhaps not shockingly, endorsed Louisiana's governor signing a law which would require the 10 Commandments to be held in school, among other things.
You know, the evangelicals and the Christians, they don't vote as much as they should. I don't know if you know that, you know? You know the power you have if you would vote? It wouldn't even be. So you got to get out and vote. Just this time, I don't care. In 4 years, you don't have to vote, okay? But Christians cannot afford to sit on the sidelines. If Joe Biden gets back in, Christianity will not be safe in a nation with no borders, no laws, no freedom, no future. You're not going to be safe. You're not going to be safe as a person.
Jesus, I say that.
But seriously, though, that sort of, I mean, it sort of exemplifies this situation that we're in right now, where, you know, because the fact is if you think that, even the fact is not, what he's saying is not true, but what in terms of the borders and all this other stuff, let's just play this out as if what he's saying is in fact true. If there are no borders or whatever else, and that somehow presents a threat to Christianity. I would say that you don't have faith. And this is the Faith and Freedom Caucus, or whatever it's called. My God. So little faith. You think that Jesus can be defeated by borders? Okay. Hey, well, then maybe you need a new God, because it seems like a weak God to me.
Illegal. And your religion certainly will be, I think, in tatters. Who likes the 10 Commandments, by the way, going up in the schools? Illegal. They think it's such a bad thing. I said, has anyone read the "Thou shalt not steal, thou shalt..." I mean, has anybody read this incredible stuff? It's just incredible.
He's saying it like he's just now. He just read it this weekend. He's like, oh my God. All white men are created equal. This is great. This is great stuff. I like the way this is starting. It's fucking ridiculous. This man was president. This is ridiculous. Maybe try Gary. That's a good plan. That's a good plan. We could try and get them faith in Gary. Better than the alternates.
They don't want it to go up. And we did something that was amazing. The big problem was it was caught up in the federal government, but the people will decide, and that's the way it should be. The people are now deciding, and some states are a little bit more conservative, and some states are much more liberal. It's every voter.
A little bit more conservative, much more liberal. Oh my God. Oh my God. These states, they're so much more liberal. They're just a teeny bit, these teeny bit conservatives over here. They're not posing any threats to anybody. They're not making any sort of threats to federal officials with hammers or anything like that. It's very normal. You're asking Gary for help? Do you hope Gary comes through on that? Okay. Now let's talk about a problem for Donald Trump specifically here, because he's really riding on this whole Trump media company to play out for him so that he can finally be a real billionaire and maybe have the money to pay off all of these judgments that have been getting held against him among, legal fees. I mean, those legal fees have got to be racking up at this point. However, unfortunately for him, ever since having been convicted in a court of law, for 34 felonies, Donald Trump's Trump media has been having some problems on the stock market.
Take a look at this live look at the stock of the parent company of Trump's Truth Social business.
Truth Central.
Since Donald Trump's felony convictions in New York 3 weeks ago, Truth Social, its parent company, have lost roughly half its value. Trump media stock prices have been rapidly dropping since May, dealing a huge blow to the former president's net worth. CNN reporter Matt Egan is joining us right now. Matt, Truth Social is hurting right now big time. What is happening?
Well, this is a stock that is basically in free fall mode right now. Trump Media was trading above $50 as recently as May 30th. Of course, that's the day that Donald Trump was convicted here in New York, and within seconds of that conviction, we saw the stock price plunge, and it's just snowballed since then. This company has now lost over half of its value in just 3 weeks. It's staggering losses. The spark for this week's sell-off was the fact that regulators gave a green light to investors who own what's known as warrants to buy extra stock in this company. It's a move that could allow Trump Media to raise extra money, but it's also going to water down existing shareholders. And
ooh, I wonder who are the big existing shareholders. I'm trying to think. Who would be a big shareholder? Oh yeah, Donald Trump. He is probably considered a big shareholder. It's weird because you heard he's a good businessman. It is weird. It is weird. Who told you that? Was it Trump? Did he tell you that he's good? Anyway, just wanted to remind everybody that Donald Trump's net worth just went down by quite a lot. And he can't even sell those stocks. So if it keeps going down, he'll continue to be losing more and more money. And then if they decide to try and fix their cash problems by way of adding more stock, he'll just lose even more money. It's a real conundrum. Okay. Let's move on to a different set of people who are currently losing money. That would be us, the taxpayers, who are continuing to foot the bill for the January 6th attack. According to a new CBS study here, whatever you want to call it, report.
We are still waiting for the Supreme Court to issue a ruling that could impact dozens, if not hundreds, of January 6th convictions and possibly upend some of the criminal charges against Donald Trump. The justices will decide if a federal obstruction law used to charge some of the Capitol rioters was misused by prosecutors. Meantime, as the prosecutions continue, a review by CBS News finds it's taxpayers who are still footing most of the bill for the damage and repairs from the attack. Scott McFarlane has more from the Capitol.
I don't know about you, but the vibe that I get from this CBS poll is that they're like almost like complaining about the the proceedings around January 6th, as if somehow it's the government's fault for convicting them of crimes that they did in fact commit. It's a weird way to frame it from CBS. I don't know who's in charge of CBS anymore, but it does feel like they've kind of gone off the rails.
The largest criminal prosecution in U.S. history is still coming up short in one way. The riotous mob on January 6th caused nearly $3 million in damage, according to the Justice Department, which for 3.5 years has been arguing for the 1,400-plus defendants to make restitution, to pay the costs. Congressional sources familiar with the matter tell CBS News only a fraction has been paid back, just $437,000, roughly 15%.
The people who came and attacked the Capitol and created all this destruction, both in physical and in human life, need to be held accountable. In some small way, they're beginning to be held accountable. I just want to make sure that that money makes its way directly into repairing the Capitol.
A CBS News review of thousands of pages of court filings and transcripts finds the Department of Justice has sought a range of restitution payments from January 6 defendants, often between $500 for those convicted of misdemeanors to $2,000 for those convicted or who pleaded guilty to felonies. CBS News also found some judges ordering small installment payments as little as $100 or $250 a month for defendants.
Wow, how generous. Oh my God, how generous. Oh, I don't even understand why why is this the thing that's happening right now? Right? Like, these people should be paying back the whole thing. Instead, $100 installments? Wild. Just wild. And yet people are complaining on the right about, oh, we're being unfairly convicted for something we definitely did live on camera.
And some of those who pleaded guilty, including James Little, a North Carolina truck driver, argued at sentencing they don't have the money to immediately pay the bill. And those imprisoned, which has included nearly 500 defendants so far, needn't pay immediately.
The fact is, the math doesn't add up, even at the maximum payment of $2,000. With 500 defendants, that only adds up to, what is that, $1 million? That's 1/3 of the supposed costs of all this. They just said it was $3 million. Okay. Do we listen to this nonsense next? Yeah, let's listen to this nonsense, because Tulsi Gabbard also went and spoke at the Faith and Freedom Conference, because, you know, she's a totally normal person. Let's hear what she had to say.
We truly live in the greatest country in the world because of the founding principles upon which our country was created. I swore an oath to support and defend the Constitution of the United States against all enemies, foreign and domestic, twice. Both as a soldier who enlisted in the wake of 9/11, like so many Americans.
Oh yeah, you're such a hero.
Aren't I a good guy? As well as a member of Congress, where I
But she really, really hates Muslim people. That's definitely part of it.
served for 8 years. I take this oath seriously, and it is our Constitution that is under attack today.
Nobody likes
I
Congress.
first joined the Democratic Party over 20 years ago. I was 21 years old, and what I saw back then was a party that still stood for free speech. That was a big open tent party that welcomed people with different ideas, different backgrounds, different religions, that stood up for civil liberties, that fought for everyday Americans. It was a party of the little guy.
Weird.
Fast forward to where we are today, that party is completely unrecognizable.
Oh.
I left the Democratic Party because it is...
I wonder what she means by that. That it's unrecognizable. And she's saying, oh, no, they don't let, the left won't let me say words. I wonder what words she's not being allowed to say exactly. I'm a little confused what her complaint is, because those would be really, really real. She is not talking about what's happening around anti-Semitism, which is basically the only example you could bring up of this, right? That actually exists in reality. But that is not something she'll be saying, because she loves any war that can be declared as some sort of anti-terrorist operation, right? She claims to be a non-war hawk, but she genuinely hasn't seen a anti-terrorist war that she couldn't get behind. So, you know, it's weird. She's got like a very specific love of killing quote-unquote terrorists, which usually seems to mean Muslim people.
I left that party because it is led by an elitist cabal.
See, they didn't even wait for they did not even wait for an answer. They just immediately started clapping. That's what this audience wants to hear. I left the left. Yay! Oh, yes! Oh, my God! I've been waiting all day for someone to say this. Ah, the stupid left. Oh.
Woke warmongers.
Oh, the woke warmongers.
They are driven by an insane...
She's supported all of the worst wars, right? Afghanistan, Iraq. You know, she definitely supports what's happening in Palestine right now. She is the worst. Tulsi, we're glad you left the left. You were never really a leftist. Let's be super real about it. Okay? Fucking Tulsi. Alright, no more Tulsi. Let's look at this, because Reuters decided to give us, I don't know if it's a gift or what, but they decided to kind of nutshell the last 2 years since Roe was reversed in the Supreme Court, and kind of, yeah, well, you'll see.
It's been 2 years since the U.S. Supreme Court overturned Roe v. Wade. Since then, litigation over abortion rights has exploded. Here's a look at the different kinds.
Somehow it doesn't feel like it's been 2 years already, and it's wild that it just kind of crept up on me like that.
Lawsuits pending and where the challenges are brewing. In these 7 U.S. states, abortion rights advocates are challenging bans outright. They used to be able to challenge abortion restrictions in federal court, citing Roe v. Wade. With that shield gone, they've shifted to bringing their cases in state courts, arguing the bans or restrictions infringe upon women's rights to privacy, liberty, or due process guaranteed in state constitutions. Those battles have already been unsuccessful in states like Florida, Idaho, and Texas. There are 5 states where abortion rights advocates have sued to preserve access to the abortion pill, or opponents have sued to block it. Medication abortion uses the drugs mifepristone and misoprostol to induce abortion in early pregnancy. It accounted for 63% of abortions in 2023, up from 53% in 2020, according to the Guttmacher Institute, an abortion rights research organization. The Supreme Court this month rejected an appeal by abortion opponents that would have significantly restricted mifepristone's distribution. A growing number of cases center on exceptions in abortion bans for women facing medical emergencies. These lawsuits argue that the exceptions, which typically allow an abortion to save the mother's life or to prevent serious injury, violate women's rights or are so unclear that doctors do not know when they apply. The Texas Supreme Court recently rejected a challenge seeking to broaden and clarify the state's medical exception. Several states and counties where abortion is banned have passed measures aimed at making it more difficult for their residents to travel to other states to get the procedure. That raises new legal issues about government's ability to legislate conduct outside of their borders.
Jesus Christ. It's been a shitty 2 years for women and anybody who cares about the rights of women. I would argue probably shittier for women, but I think we all probably know that intrinsically. It's an unfortunate world that we are living in right now. And we're not done with unfortunate stuff. Let's go to this one from Global News from 11 hours ago, where an unhoused Ontario family who has been paying for a campground site in Peterborough is now being ordered to leave by the campground.
Camping with her family has always been fun for Shanna Miller. It's just not how she imagined they would be living full-time.
It's not exactly something I ever thought I'd have to deal with.
Miller, along with her husband, 3 kids, and mother, have paid for Beavermead campground site since May 10th. Severe medical conditions have kept Miller and her husband from regular work. In February, the family was forced to leave their rental due to unsafe conditions. Unable to find affordable housing or shelter space, they pitched their tents.
And it's been a year since I've been looking for another place to live. I haven't found it.
Their stay at Beavermead, though, appears to be coming to an end.
Beavermead Campground is not a housing option for you, and you will not.
Operator Autonomy Conservation recently served Miller a trespass notice, demanding they pack up and leave by June 27th. Miller says they have now purchased an RV to keep at Beavermead, but the campground still says they can't return.
Crushed because
this is ridiculous. It is ridiculous. Why? It's a campground. The length of time you're there shouldn't affect anything. And these people bought a freaking RV. And where are they going to go now? They haven't been able to find housing for a year. They're just going to park that RV in a parking lot somewhere probably, or on a street. Where else do they go? Can we blame them for any of that? No. This is ridiculous.
it's like this was supposed to be safe. This was supposed to be a good place for my family to be. I'm not out on somebody else's property. I'm not destroying city property. I'm not bothering anybody.
Autonomy Conservation did not respond to a repeated request for an interview. The agency does not state rules around maximum stays on its website.
So I reached out to the Commissioner of both Arenas, Parks and Rec and Housing, and was responded back that they were working with the family.
City Councillor Keith Riel says he doesn't know all the specifics around the Miller situation.
That's helpful. Well, we're working with the family. Oh, thank you. That was a city councilor, by the way, who they told that to. Just absolutely wild. Yeah. 4 people. They have 3 kids. Or 4 kids? It's like 3 or they have like 3 or 4 kids. And you're just gonna what? You're gonna force them off of this campground that they're paying for? Just wild. Homelessness is being criminalized everywhere. Has been, but it just seems like it's getting worse and worse as the housing crisis continues. Thankfully, we have seen some recent videos that allude to things potentially getting better regarding the housing crisis, but I guess we'll have to really wait it out to see exactly how that all plays out. Let's move on to this, and guess we're gonna get working on some of our environmental stuff here. This is from 22 hours ago from Global News as well. Who benefits from the most from electric?
In survey after survey, consumers have said the biggest barrier.
Hold on, I fucked up. Okay, yeah. All right, this is they're asking the question: who benefits the most from electric vehicle subsidies?
In survey after survey, consumers have said the biggest barrier to buying an electric vehicle is the price.
They remain kind of at the price point of what we used to consider luxury vehicles.
So, to help overcome that barrier and get more people into electric vehicles, the federal government pays buyers of a select group of EVs a subsidy of up to $5,000. That subsidy program cost the Treasury more than $900 million in the last 2 years and will eat up nearly $600 million this year. But those $5,000 rebate checks tend to go to some of the country's wealthiest consumers.
I do find that EV ownership is biased towards affluent households for, in part, the simple reason that EVs today are simply more expensive than the average car.
Global News did its own analysis using motor vehicle registration data cross-referenced against household income data for federal ridings. And sure enough, ridings with high household income also had the most EV owners. Take the 7 ridings in Vancouver, for example, here arranged by median income, lowest to highest. Now, here's the number of electric vehicles in each riding per 1,000 people. Higher income levels equals higher rates of EV ownership. That's a correlation that holds in communities right across the country.
The wealthier you are, the more likely you are to consider an electric vehicle.
Which means
this also exists in the United States as well, if you're not aware. And it's partly why we see, like, for instance, the United States putting tariffs on Chinese EVs because of the fact they want to keep those prices high, even though they claim to want to encourage this stuff, and they have done things like these subsidies. I think there still might be a program in place for this in the United States, but there certainly was one there for like at least a decade, I think, or longer. And unfortunately, EV ownership is something that is more expensive than buying a regular non-electric car, and because the auto manufacturers in the United States haven't figured out a way to do it as cheap as other cars, and make it as easy for everyone, since we've relied on companies to solve the climate crisis for us, we are in this situation where the affluent are the ones who are benefiting from these sorts of subsidies, and is not helping to actually propagate the adoption of EVs across the board. Oh, MIDI Doctors is awake. Good to see you. A lot of people in chat. I don't think I've said hi to everybody. Might as well do it now. See Selena and Mrs. Jen, Moa Noip, Robot Cat. Who else? Aaron W, Afroponics, BCat K, of course. Bob Treesh. Soul Life is here, my god. All the people are awake. Not usually awake, but are here. Oh god, it's that time. Yep, well. Gotta do it. Trying to remember this as frequently as I possibly can. I kinda suck at it. Okay. Yes, this. Well, it's that time. It's the top of the hour. Which means anybody who is watching on Twitch right now that isn't subscribed to this channel is going to be unfairly subjected to advertisements by this guy that you see behind me. The creepy laughing face and seems to be doing some sort of a Dr. Evil cosplay. Yeah. If you're not aware, this guy and Amazon happen to own Twitch. But what you may or may not know, what you can do to somehow stick it to Mr. Jeffy Bezos, well, if you happen to be an Amazon Prime subscriber, well, you get a free Twitch Prime sub every single goddamn month to use on your favorite streamers, like me, GalacticStreamLord. Otherwise, you're going to be subjected to these ads, which are about to happen right now. Okay. Now, let's get back to the news. Hold on, I gotta close this video player. Alright, now, let's go to this, where farmers are attempting a unusual experiment to help their farms thrive amid rising temperatures. Something we've actually kind of been talking about recently regarding the problems with us losing farmable land at a very scary rate. What is it, 4 football fields a second? Due to climate change's effects, this may be a solution. I guess we'll find out.
With planet-warming carbon dioxide levels the highest they've been in nearly 3 million years, many farmers say they've been battling record-breaking high temperatures that affect their crops. One farmer in Illinois is taking part in an unusual experiment to try to cut carbon emissions while improving his soil and crops. This past winter, Roxana Saberi got an up-close look at the process at its earliest stage.
On this farm in central Illinois, Eric Schott is scattering more than just seeds.
What is this? So this is the concrete dust from silicate.
Yep, crushed concrete. Nearly 50 tons of it over 23 acres.
You are the first farmer in America trying this.
That is a fact. The 6th-generation farmer signed on to an experiment to see if this dust will work some magic by helping him grow more crops while cutting greenhouse gases.
We're all excited to find out at the end of the day if it's fact or fiction.
So why concrete dust?
We're trying to combat climate change, and if we apply this concrete dust to farmland, it can draw down carbon dioxide, removing it from the atmosphere.
Biologist Morris Bryson, who's running the research, admits it may sound a bit crazy.
It doesn't seem to make sense.
I guess it doesn't. It may be counterintuitive. It's a gray, man-made material.
After all, cement, the main ingredient in concrete, is responsible for nearly 7% of the world's planet-warming carbon dioxide emissions.
That's true.
But Bryson says he and his company, called Silicate, are simply trying to speed up a natural process known as weathering. That's when, over millions of years, rain breaks down rocks, causing them to release elements that can capture carbon dioxide from the atmosphere and store it. In recent years, scientists have tried to help rocks capture more carbon faster by grinding them up and spreading them across large surface areas.
And we're taking the leftover concrete and putting it to work.
Bryson says his company is the first to experiment spreading concrete on farmland. He says it's already working on much smaller barley fields in his native country of Ireland.
If in theory our material is drawing in the CO2, we should see not much CO2 in those gases.
Now he hopes these high-tech sensors will prove it works here too.
I just think this is a very interesting sort of technological advancement here. I don't know if it's really an advancement necessarily, but this is one of these sorts of experiments that I find to be very intriguing. And according to them, there's already data from a previous experiment showing that it's working. It's not something I would have expected at all. But the fact is, you could be doing this with, older concrete as well, that is perhaps coming from like demolition sites. It could be a second use, if you will, for old concrete. And the fact is, it sounds like to some degree, if it's older, it would be better because it'd be closer to being ready to do this whole thing. I mean, I don't quite understand all of the science of this. I was not aware of the fact that somehow stones and rocks were capturing carbon dioxide. So I'm still trying to get my head around the whole thing. I just find it to be really interesting. And if it does work, I think, and if it also somehow helps with crops being grown, I don't see how I could possibly not be on board for something like this.
We really need to know the net effect on CO2 from measuring the results on a long-term basis.
Clara Blattler is a geochemistry professor at the University of Chicago.
We also need to know what are some of the side effects, both positive and negative. And so it'll be really important for them to monitor the health of the soil, to measure properties of the water that's running off the fields.
Isn't this a drop in the bucket?
The problem is that we've put so much CO2 in the atmosphere already that we have to pull it down.
So this is just one of many tools we should be using?
One of many, many, many tools, yes.
Bryson says Schatz Farm alone could remove up to 2,200 tons of carbon a year, equivalent to the annual emissions of around 430 cars.
It's not a lot. It's not a lot. Although I suppose if it was scaled up to the entire food grid, but I suppose we really need more data to be doing anything like that. But yeah, it just seems like an interesting story for us to get started with as we talk about our climate and things like that. It started off here in California, where the first weekend of summer has brought extreme heat alerts in Southern California.
Donna, thank you. Hot today, and as we've been telling you, it's going to be hotter this week. And these folks in Griffith Park hit the trails early before the peak of the heat moved on in.
And dangerous night temperatures expected to hit our inland empire this weekend, and fire officials are warning everyone to stay safe. NBC4's Christian Cazares is live in Paris with what you need to know. Christian.
That's right. There are several things that we can do right now to stay safe during the summer months. Today we spoke to CAL FIRE, who says staying hydrated, staying in the shade, and also limiting your time outdoors are all some great tips to avoid a trip to the hospital. In a moment's notice, firefighters from CAL FIRE Station in Paris can roll out to any emergency. The summer season, they say, is their peak because of wildfires and heat-related calls.
I think we average out about 500 incidents a day, and that's just with the Riverside County. And I want to specify that that's just medical, I believe.
On Friday afternoon, those medical calls coming in within minutes from each other as the temperature held steady in the 90s.
And you could only imagine what the firefighters are wearing. It's way thicker. They have the big boots. They have all these layers on to protect them. And then if they're going into a structure or they need their oxygen tanks, that's also weight that you're putting on top of them.
Fire crews already battling fires this month across the Inland Empire. As the days get hotter, firefighters hope everyone will be responsible and take the precautions to protect themselves from overheating.
Well, exercising early in the day, that's something we really recommend. Staying hydrated, wearing your sunscreen, wearing the proper clothing to prevent you from any exposure in the sun.
CAL FIRE says 95% of fires are human-caused, and with the increase in vegetation, it poses a higher risk. As precaution, these 6 popular hiking areas will remain closed across Riverside County until further notice.
Yeah, so it's, you know.
So hot right now.
And I think everybody in America, probably most people in America are pretty aware of that, but because of that, there have been a great number of fires. We've been looking at them all week. Just figured we would look at this story discussing a woman's escape from the wildfire in New Mexico. This is from AP 20 hours ago or so.
My boyfriend works at the hospital, and he sent me a picture, and he said, this thing is just getting worse by the second. And then all of a sudden, by about noon, I guess, I don't know, my time's a little off, maybe sometime before noon, it exploded. It was like an atomic bomb in the sky. It's sporadic. One home is there, and then 3 homes are gone, and then 2 homes are there, and then 4 homes are gone. It's just so bizarre. It's so strange. We've never seen anything like this.
I finally packed a small bag, even made some dinner right at 5, and then I went and jumped in the shower. My door was shut, and my son said, it was probably about 5:20ish, and he said, Mom, what are you doing? It's at the Swiss Chalet, and he opened the door, and I still was in denial. I would have to say that part of it was sheer terror, because you didn't know. You just saw the smoke and you didn't know where the flames were. And then my son and my husband were like, well, you know, getting into that river, you still, and I go, I don't know that, but that was just my plan. Like, I wasn't going to sit in my car and just burn to death.
Oh, that is a harrowing story. Thankfully, the woman's okay.
Dog owner Courtney.
Ugh. Fact is fire season is only just starting, and the stories are already getting pretty tough. But if it stays this hot all summer, things will get drier. That is just how that fucking works. So the potential for this to continue getting worse and worse is unfortunately quite high. Let's look at this story, which is somewhat difficult to look at, but ended up okay. This is from Reuters, where a woman has now finally reunited with her dog after having to evacuate in the wildfire.
Dog owner Courtney Bell was forced to evacuate from her home in the village of Ruidoso, New Mexico this week and flee the deadly South Fork wildfire. She was only reunited with one of her dogs, this 8-year-old pit bull named Capone, days later. Bell had to leave him behind while driving with her 3 other pups and her daughter because Capone's anxiety sparked tension among the dogs, and Bell feared a fight, which led to a gut-wrenching decision.
All you're thinking is, I just left my dog, you know, like a dog that I love. Like, he's 8 years old, you know, and we've had him so long since he was young, and he's part of our family. You leave a part of your family.
Bell left water, a soaked rug, and a crate for Capone, hoping to return or that someone would rescue him.
I had to make that tough choice to leave Capone at the house because you can't have a bloodbath in your front seat when you're trying to evacuate a fire, you know? We weren't in immediate danger, so I tried to drive to see if they would be calmer going, and it was just getting worse, and I didn't want my daughter to be harmed, you know? So I had to make the choice to turn around and take him back to the house.
At the Eastern New Mexico fairgrounds where many are sheltering, she posted about Capone on Facebook. A few days later, a couple found him, and they were soon together again.
They're just animals to love and to love you back, and if you're having a bad day, they're there and they're not gonna sass you or, you know, nag at you for being late. They're just happy to see you, and they're a loving distraction in a crisis.
While Belle and her family have found safety at the fairgrounds, New Mexico's governor said Tuesday that 500 homes have been destroyed by the South Fork fire and 2 people had died.
Yeah. If you hadn't heard, multiple people have died. I heard 3. I think he said 2. But either way, that's a difficult decision to have to leave your dog behind in that moment. I don't think I could do it. But I'm not gonna judge that lady. It's a tough fucking situation. Now let's look at a different situation which happened very suddenly. Rock Valley, Iowa. This is from 7 hours ago, where suddenly rain caused serious flooding in the area. Hundreds were evacuated. I was not expecting this story to come up at all. We were dealing with a bunch of other shit. Look at this freaking disaster. Literally. It looks like those pictures we saw of like Brazil. Remember? And kind of reminds me of the flooding that was in Russia as well. Oh god. It's the whole town pretty much. Now I'm pretty sure a river goes through here somewhere, but obviously because of excessive rains, people were not prepared for the banks to be overrun. Now let's go on to Storm Alberto, which is the first tropical named storm of hurricane season. Did not become a hurricane, but has in fact caused a great deal of flooding, both in Mexico and in Texas. So we're just gonna look at some of this footage. This one is in Mexico.
Crews at Nuevo Leon conducted a rescue from storms Alberto. The downpour caused the Santa Catarina River to burst its banks in Monterrey, the main city in northern Mexico. The heavy rains also washed out a roadway in the city. Jesus Christ. Alberto, the first named storm of 2024 Atlantic hurricane season, weakened into a tropical depression as it moved inland over northeastern Mexico. It still looks fucked. Officials say 4 people have died due to the storm, including 3 children. Oof.
Alright, we're just gonna go straight to this next one. I think this is footage from Texas, actually. I think Twitch just ran another ad for me. I think it's been running ads intermittently. Why are you paused?
Well, we are tracking a new possible tropical disturbance forming in the Gulf of Mexico, all while communities in the region deal with the aftermath of Tropical Storm Alberto. The first named storm of the season made landfall yesterday, bringing heavy rain and flooding to parts of Texas and Mexico. CBS News national correspondent Dave Malkoff joins us now from Corpus Christi, Texas. So, Dave, what is it looking like? And I see the wind is kicking up those waves behind you.
Hi, Lindsay. You can see the camera bouncing as well. The wind is the big problem, and I really feel bad for the folks who are living here in North Beach, Corpus Christi, because this is day 3 now that they're going through with all this storm surge. That's what's pushing the wind up here.
Oh my
I want to
God.
point you to
Oh my God.
where
I just noticed that there's a fucking parking meter right next to him. I thought he was on the goddamn beach. Jesus Christ. Oh. Okay. Okay, let me reset myself just now.
Going through with all this storm surge. That's what's pushing the wind up here. I want to point you to
That water
where I'm
does
standing.
look
It looks like I'm
thirsty. You're
standing on the
right,
beach,
Solid.
right, Lindsay? But if you zoom in a little bit, you can see that that's a parking meter right there.
Yeah, no, I see
This
it.
is not the beach. So the parking lot is right here. Then it goes a little seawall. Then there's another 50 feet to the water on a
Oh,
normal day.
fuck.
So that is what is left behind from Tropical Storm Alberto,
50
which
feet.
became Tropical Depression Alberto and Tropical Nothing Alberto right now.
They still have those old-timey parking. Most of America, aside from the big cities, have those old-timey parking meters, Jerry. We don't invest in infrastructure, okay? We're fine with all the old things that are constantly breaking.
Because it is gone. It's in the history books. There is a Wikipedia article for Tropical Storm Alberto 2024. So we are still feeling the effects of it on day 3.
It's better that we pay for bombs to kill Palestinians than for us to have working infrastructure in this country. I think you know that.
Right here with all this flooding and all this wind, and it's just really, really heartbreaking for the people not only who live here, but who are vacationing here and the people who have businesses here as well.
So what else is whipping up out there, and what does that mean for the areas still seeing the effects of Alberto?
The bad part of it is that the ocean and the Gulf of Mexico, all of the sea surface temperature in this area of the world is very warm, and that is the fuel for these storms. We have 2 areas of interest right now that the National Hurricane Center in Miami are looking at. Number 1 is
Yeah, and so there's also another storm, which is currently looking, it could dissipate, but I have seen that there were other systems forming in the Atlantic headed in this very direction, so could just be the prelude to more of this. Well, of course it could be, because we've already been told by, the National Oceanographic and Atmospheric Association that this is going to be the most active hurricane season of their recorded history, so that might give you some kind of a sign on what things are going to look like. Now let's quickly look at this story. I think someone actually alluded to this in chat earlier. I can't remember who mentioned this, but someone was like, it was 100 degrees in Maine today. Well, yeah, that's because this heat wave, or heat dome as they've been calling it, has hit not just the West Coast, but also the Midwest and the Northeast, hitting places as north as Maine. This is a video from the AP from 2 days ago where they discussed the heats in New Hampshire and Vermont, also 2 historically colder places.
These basketball courts in Monterrey, Mexico looked more like
No,
wave.
we don't need to talk more about this. We get it. It's hurricane season. It's happening. And go, Web, go.
This is our 4th or 5th year. This year is obviously a little challenging because of all the heat. You know, our kettle gets up to 150,000 BTUs and runs about 5 minutes, and the fans push the heat out right on to all of us. And the hardest part is just kind of staying dehydrated, or staying hydrated. It's hard to stay cool. We try to
Nobody
keep all the
wants to
fans.
work next to that fucking thing on a 100-degree day.
And then we put them on our necks. And that helps us.
This poor kid.
It sucks. I live in Vermont for a reason. You know what I mean?
This guy.
Never been this hot in my entire life. Drank 2 gallons of water yesterday. Yeah, I'm actually homeless.
Damn.
You are?
Yes.
So where did you sleep last night? Where did you sleep?
Last night, I happened to fall asleep right over there, actually.
It must have been so hot.
Yeah.
It sucked. The mosquitoes
Okay.
are brutal this year.
It's rough. I was here all day yesterday for about 10.5 hours, sweating. We had a kid.
I feel like they should have stayed with him for like a good 5 minutes for this thing. I mean, for real. That was the story. Talking to the homeless guy who was just shockingly comfortable on camera, ready to tell you about how shitty his nights have been. I wanted to hear more of that, to be honest. It doesn't sound like things are going super well for him.
Home, it's rough. You have to stay hydrated. We all did, but the heat gets to you. For most part, it's fun. We do usually have 10 kids in here, so it can get to 100 degrees.
She looks like she's overheating, and she works in an ice cream shop. That's weird. Oh God! Remember, folks, I can't remember which university it was that did the study, but somewhere, I think it was in Europe, they determined that the point at which human beings start to experience heat exhaustion, especially depending on how much you are exerting yourself, starts somewhere around 85 degrees. Fahrenheit, not Celsius. What are we doing next? Oh, I just noticed that there's infinite Jessicas on Twitch. Just popping their heads up. I do like that emote. Infinite, even though we don't have Jessica as a support character every day, we do have Jessica emotes on Twitch. How many likes do we have? 16 likes. Okay, we're still one emotional support character. It is early going. Where to next? Alright, let's just continue talking about this fucking heat wave, because it is really, really hot right now.
So hot right now.
More than 100 million people remain under excessive heat warnings and advisories this weekend. The weather has already led to record-setting and record-tying temperatures from the Midwest to the Mid-Atlantic, and more is on the way. In our nation's capital, it could peak with triple-digit temperatures this weekend. That would be a first for D.C. in nearly 8 years. Natalie Brand is there. Natalie, good morning.
Good morning to you, Jeff. People are up early this morning, exercising, taking in the sights before it gets just too brutally hot to do so. D.C., one of those places facing an excessive heat watch. The humidity here makes everything feel hotter. Forecasters say the heat index could approach 110 today.
Woof.
Dangerously hot temperatures blanketing the Northeast have put millions at risk and are expected to climb even higher this weekend here in the Mid-Atlantic.
I hate that.
Oh, it's scorching. It's so hot out here.
Moms like Denise Smith
Yeah.
seeking refuge at
Yeah.
the Splash Park in Washington, D.C., where city leaders have extended the heat emergency through the weekend.
We're asking people to just be mindful.
Oh, that just gave me flashbacks to what happened earlier this fucking week.
Of how hot and how dangerous it can be, and to avoid overheating.
Thene Freeman, the director of D.C.'s Department of Parks and Recreation, says dozens of rec centers are now doubling as cooling sites.
Heat exhaustion is a real thing, and so we want our residents to be safe from extreme heat. Drink plenty of water, wear loose fit clothing, wear a hat, stay out, avoid the heat and the sun during these peak hours as much as possible.
The nation's capital is facing what could be the hottest summer weekend in years. Elsewhere in the country, record-breaking temperatures on Friday gripped cities from
The hottest summer weekend in years, and it's June 22nd right now. This is ridiculous. Guess what ad Google just showed you? Wait, did Google just show you a freaking ad on my channel? BCAT. This is important. What just did that? Did that happen? Did YouTube show you a fucking ad on this channel? That is offensive to me, if it is the case, because I'm not seeing a single cent from that ad revenue, if it is happening. Taylor Swift had I actually saw that story where she was posing with the royal family for selfies. Yeah, she did have a British concert, didn't she? Where was that? Manchester? Alright, tell us about the ad. We're all interested. This is important. By the way, to anybody who has been using the Twitch, I have made it so that all of your channel points, rewards, will all show up on all the screens now, including this one. All of your like gifted subs, your subscriptions, whatever else, bits, all that shit will now show up on the screen. Still not going to be putting chat on the screen. I just hate that. But you've now been freed. Oh, YouTube just gave you a phone advertisement. Okay. I still need to know whether or not you got that. Oh, break now. Break now. Okay. Better break now. Just like that British host and also Princess Moanoap has just told me to do. Just get that drink on. Oh yeah. Lemon flavored tea. Delicious and refreshing. And barrage of Vergonia flags. They're very beautiful. I do love those. Wonder who put the painstaking effort into making them. Oh, I still don't feel like I've received an answer, BCat. Was that an ad on this channel? Or was that a different channel? I'm not going to be offended if it was a different channel. In fact, I'll be less offended if it was a different channel. I just need to know. Because I will be suing YouTube immediately. Okay, but let's move on, because I've been stalling long enough waiting for this answer. Just go to...
In your brunch.
Let's go to this last one to finish up our discussion of the extreme heat. Not just being
Welcome
seen
to
in
the
the United
programme.
States,
We're going to start
but
with the
everywhere.
extreme weather that's being experienced across 4 continents, a sign that climate change may again help push temperatures beyond the record-breaking heat last summer. In Saudi Arabia, there are reports that more than 1,000 people have died, pilgrims at the annual Hajj festival, killed by the stifling heat. We'll have more on that in just a moment. In India, there have been several deaths in the capital, Delhi. Temperatures were reaching more than 50 degrees Celsius. In Europe, temperatures have also risen, with Greece experiencing its earliest ever summer heat wave. And in the United States, there are wildfires on one coast, made worse with high temperatures, and a tropical storm brewing on the other. Well, scientists from the World Weather Attribution have released a report today saying that human-induced climate change made recent extreme heat in the US Southwest, Mexico and Central America around 35 times more likely. In their new report, scientists said such a heat wave was now 4 times more likely than it was in the year 2000, driven by planet-warming emissions. Let's speak to Roop Singh, Head of Urban and Attribution at the Red Crescent Climate Centre.
I don't know why he just wouldn't say greenhouse gases. Planet-warming emissions? What a weird way to say that.
Her team helped develop the report. Thank you for coming on the programme.
Okay, I guess it's more specific.
Absolutely.
So just talk us through the headlines here.
Yeah, so the heat wave that we saw in Central America and North America is just evidence of the climate change that we're seeing around the world. In our attribution study, we found that climate change made the maximum temperatures 35 times more likely, and the nighttime temperatures up to 200 times more likely. And that's really significant because it's really the nighttime temperatures when your body is supposed to rest and recover that has impacts on human health. And
seriously, It's not just a annoying feeling. This is somehow a instinctual thing that you don't want to be gross and sticky when you're trying to sleep and overheated, because that's when your body needs to take care of itself and repair what you've done to it over the day. You've probably done some terrible things to your body, and it needs time and optimal temperatures to do its thing.
That's what's actually causing a lot of these heat-related deaths.
And just remind us of the mechanism here. What is happening what is heating what to lead to these temperatures?
Yeah, so we know that climate change is caused by increasing greenhouse gases, and essentially those greenhouse gases act to warm the planet around the world, but they're also acting to sort of supercharge weather systems. So we're starting to see these heat domes and essentially heat stick around for an extended period of time in different parts of the world. We saw that in Mexico and Central America, and we're also starting to see that now in the northern and eastern parts of the United States.
So you said heat dome there. Just expand on that a little for us. What is it?
Yeah, absolutely. So essentially, it's an area of high pressure. It's a place where you have not a lot of clouds, not a lot of rainfall, but essentially you just have high temperatures that stick around for days and days, and essentially that the duration of that heat causes a lot of impacts both on infrastructure but also on people. And people just aren't able to cope when it's hot during the day and at night continuously for days on end.
So people...
Yeah. And this this headline they have right here. I mean, we just talked about this situation. Oh, it's not going to let me. Yeah. I mean, we were talking about this earlier. I think, what was the number again? It was some wild number of people died. Now I don't even want to say it because it sounds wrong. Hold on. Okay, this is from 9 hours ago, according to Saudi Arabian officials, saying that 577 people have died from heat in just 2 days of pilgrims going to Mecca for the Hajj pilgrimage, which only happens every no, I don't remember now. Numbers are just floating around in my head uselessly, and yet somehow I can't pull them out when I need them. Jerry's backyard's taken over by corvids. Interesting. Could be fun. Depends. Depends on if you're able to get along with them. I feel like if they somehow had a grudge against you, it could be really bad. So I feel like you'd have to be somewhat diplomatic with these birds. Okay. Let's move on from the heat. Not that any of us probably can forget it, as there's a great portion of my audience lives in the heat dome. Not everybody, but many of you, at least according to YouTube. Okay, now let's look at a story that's not depressing. This is from BBC News from 11 hours ago, where apparently chimpanzees are self-medicating with healing plants.
It's science.
Next, a case of chimp medicine. A new study has found that wild chimpanzees eat plants that have pain-relieving and antibacterial properties to heal themselves. It's according to scientists who described their detective work in the forests of Uganda, observing animals which appeared injured or sick to work out whether they were self-medicating with plants. When an injured animal sought out something specific from the forest to eat, the researchers collected samples of that plant and had it analysed. Well, I spoke to the lead researcher on the project, Elodie Freiman, who is from the University of Oxford, and she told me how the study came about.
So this was part of my PhD research project. And so what I was interested in doing was expanding what we know about chimpanzee medicinal repertoires. So we know chimps self-medicate, but right now, before I began my PhD, we really were sort of limited in which species of plants we knew that they were using. So I wanted to work at my field site in the Wobegon forest in western Uganda, and I wanted to identify some potential new medicine for the chimps.
So just explain a little bit more about how you found that, because you monitored the chimps and saw which plants they ate if they were ones that they didn't usually eat.
Yeah, that's right. So I was doing behavioral research with the wild chimp, which meant I was living out in the Wobegon forest. I lived there for about 8 months total, and I was following the chimps every day, trekking in the forest with them and a team, and we were writing down sort of any unusual feeding behaviors that we observed. And we were also simultaneously keeping track of the health of these chimps through non-invasive monitoring methods, so collecting samples to get a sense of whether or not they might have a bacterial infection, a high parasite load, or also if they were showing any wounds or injuries. And from there, we would pay sort of closer attention to their diet, what they were eating, and then collect any suspect plants that we saw them consuming.
And what sort of things were the plants helping to heal in the chimps?
Yeah, so our paper runs through several anecdotes of chimps with a wide range of different kind of illnesses. Some had high parasite loads, some had signs of maybe a bacterial infection, and others had kind of wounds or injuries. And when we took the plant samples to a lab in Germany and had a team of pharmacologists there look at the actual medicinal properties, we found that 88% showed strong antibacterial properties and 33% showed strong anti-inflammatory properties.
It's super cool. It just is wild. And I'm pretty sure we're like one step away from the chimps just taking over the planet. Maybe they can do better than we have. I don't know. Obviously I'm teasing, but this is just really interesting scientific discovery that I figured we would just take a look at in between all of this other bad stuff that's happening with the world. Is one of these things I try to do and struggle to most days because seemingly all the bad stories kind of take up my attention, as there's so many of them. I remember when I started all this, I thought, you know, there's never going to be enough stories regarding the weather, the climate to cover. How wrong was I? Oh boy, Dancing Gary's on Twitch right now. It's an entire line of Garys dancing. I should re-upload that emote and call it Gary Dance. Because I think it's called something else right now. What was I doing? Oh yeah, I was focusing. Focus. Let's go to Switzerland, where they were hit by floods, as now residents and tourists are on high alert.
Persistent rainfall, melting snow, and saturated ground have caused significant flooding in Switzerland's Valais canton. Authorities are closely monitoring the Rhone River and its tributaries, which are at risk of overflowing, posing further flood and landslide threats. Swiss federal authorities have elevated danger levels to the second highest, urging people to avoid watercourses, bridges, and travel near affected areas. The tourist hub of Zermatt, near the Matterhorn mountain, faced major disruptions as the Meta-Vispa River overflowed, isolating the village and closing schools since midday Friday. The village of Chipis was evacuated, where around 30 residents sought shelter overnight. Public access to Rhone riverbanks is restricted this weekend.
Okay. Now this is sort of, I guess what you call like the tail end of a lot of flooding that we saw in eastern, like northeastern Europe. Although it went all the way. I'm trying to think, where was the furthest west that the flooding was? Oh, I can't even remember now. Wubba lubba dub dub. I see you found the Rick, the Rick GIF that I added to the emotes. Gotta say, it is good to be multi-streaming, since I'm not making money on YouTube. Having the Twitch going and then people actually watching it does in fact help, even if it is a very small amount of help. It all accumulates, right? What was I doing? Yeah, staying focused still. Let's go to a different part of Europe here. This is from the Associated Press. Break now. I have to hydrate, apparently. Okay. Let's go to this. I think we were talking about earlier how the Balkan region is being hit by a heat wave and have now been dealing with a major power outage as they were forced to shut down the grid as it was being overdrawn.
An hours-long power outage hit the Balkans on Friday, plunging the region into darkness. It comes off the back of an early June heatwave that saw temperatures climb to a sizzling 40 degrees. Croatian officials blamed faulty energy infrastructure between Greece and Albania for the blackouts.
Ne bih volio se izlet s informacijama, preliminarno da je neki dalekovod između Grčke I Albanije ispao I onda da su se tokovi promijenili, ali to je još sfera nagađanja I nekih neprovjerenih informacija.
Bosnia's state power company said the outage was caused by problems in a regional distribution line, while Albania's state power company said extreme heat caused the problem. Montenegrin officials said the increased daily load compounded by high temperatures led to the outages.
Simply, it is not possible and it is not necessary to switch it on and off for the simple reason that it would be a major attack on the distribution network. Therefore, we must be careful. We ask citizens for a little patience. These situations are not common. It does not happen often in electrical power systems, but it is something that cannot
the energy
be
infrastructure collapse
excluded. Okay. Let's quickly look at this video discussing a little bit more detail on what happened in Saudi Arabia. Now, people have in the past pointed out that this is not something new.
Hundreds of people are thought to have died during this year's Hajj pilgrimage in Saudi.
But I think this number is higher than previous, if I'm not mistaken.
Arabia, as temperatures in Mecca reach more than 50 degrees Celsius. Muslims travel from across the world to make the journey to the holiest city in Islam. Our religion editor, Ali Makboul, now reports.
In the searing heat of western Saudi Arabia, walking for several hours a day, surrounded by many hundreds of thousands of others, performing the 5 days of the Hajj is an arduous undertaking at the best of times. Some thrive in the adversity, but each year hundreds also die of conditions related to heat exhaustion. It may be months until we get the full picture, but given temperatures reached nearly 52 degrees Celsius, there have been fears the number that died this year could be much higher than normal.
For me, a person who has visited this blessed city for over 33 years, I have never seen such extreme heat and conditions. We saw people every 50 yards struggling with the heat, full of perspiration. We found that it was difficult for the old, for the frail, and indeed for the fit and healthy as well.
Over the years, the Saudi authorities have introduced sprinkler systems, tunnel routes and water stations across the massive pilgrimage area and issue advice to use umbrellas and avoid walking in the hottest parts of the day. They've also tried to control numbers with strict quotas, but many religiously motivated use unofficial routes to get around them, given it's incumbent on every Muslim with the means to go on Hajj at least once in their lifetime. Alim Makboul, BBC News.
Yeesh. I've never cared enough about anything religious to do that. I agree with you there, Omega. Oh God. All right. Yeah. This is what's next. Let's talk about this again. This is from a day ago. This is out of Reuters, where barren fields are bringing Chinese farmers to tears from the drought.
Zhang Junying, a corn farmer in China's Shandong province, was moved to tears on Thursday as she realized her fields are now barren and destroyed. She, alongside many other farmers in the province's capital, GNN, have found themselves facing ruin as drought and a heatwave have seized northern China.
I hope that the government can reduce the burden on farmers. It would be best if water could be supplied to farmers. This is the voice coming from a farmer's heart. It's a difficult thing for us to say.
Weeks of scarce rainfall and blistering heat have wrung this part of China dry. Shandong among them, a major agricultural province with over 7 million acres of corn planted this season alone, according to local media. Despite repairing wells and switching up planting schedules, some farmers feel helpless in the face of the crisis, including Wan Chuiping.
The drought is very severe. It hasn't rained for more than 2 months. There was no water in the river. I can only mix pesticide with tap water.
On Wednesday, the authorities in Shandong issued a heat alert, warning temperatures could reach up to nearly 40 degrees.
Watering your plants with tap water? That is not optimal farming at all. Woof. And they're not the only place that's experiencing a drought right now. There's multiple places in Africa that are dealing with similar problems. In fact, Sudan is dealing with a drought on top of the fighting and ethnic cleansing that's been going on, if I'm not mistaken. Including a bunch of other places that are being affected in various ways by this sort of trend that we are seeing with the environment. Pesticide use is terrible for the environment, totally. I agree. It's like we need some sort of, group to tell people what they could maybe do differently. Oh yeah. There's a bunch of those. Okay, now let's look at this to end our environmental related coverage today. This is Actually, should we start this now or should we do this after? How far am I in right now? Hour 43. I got like a couple of long ones in this back half, don't I? Yeah. Because this is technically, wait, did Twitch just take another ad break? My God. They are incessant. You really do have to be subscribed, otherwise you'll be forced to watch a bunch of horrifying capitalist messaging. But yeah, because I think that this, to some degree, does in fact tie into all this. And because I also just want to make the first and second half kind of even. This is from Democracy Now! From a day ago. Agnieszka Holland's new film, Green Border, depicting Europe's refugee crisis.
This is Democracy Now!, democracynow.org, The War and Peace Report. I'm Amy Goodman with Nermeen Sheikh.
We end today's show with a new dramatic film titled Green Border, about the humanitarian crisis facing millions of migrants seeking refuge in Europe. It tells the story of how refugees from the Middle East and Africa have been trapped at the so-called Green Border between Poland, which is part of the European Union, and Belarus, a Russian ally. The feature film is directed by highly acclaimed, award-winning Polish director and screenwriter Agnieszka Holland. In a career spanning 50 years, she's directed more than 20 films and several television productions in countries and in languages across Europe, as well as in the US and Canada. Green Border received high praise and recognition, including the Special Jury Prize at the 2023 Venice Film Festival, but was strongly condemned by the then far-right government in Poland. Green Border premieres today in New York at Film Forum and nationwide next Friday. This is the film's trailer. For our radio audience, we voiced over the Polish, Arabic, and French into English.
From Belarus, we go to Poland, and then to your uncle in Sweden. Remember, everything is paid for, and he'll take you to the best border crossing.
What is that?
Get out. Let's go. Run.
This isn't propaganda. It's a real threat. They aren't people. They are live bullets.
They need to get themselves together, somewhere safe.
You mean migrants?
Refugees.
If you want to work with us, you have to accept the rules. We give food, water, medicines, and we don't enter to the exclusion zone, okay?
Look, I didn't see anything, neither did you.
What are you talking about?
We shouldn't worry about issues beyond our control.
They're keeping an eye on you.
I know.
They'll track us.
What is really going on?
What do you think we're doing out there?
What kind of father would take his child down this road?
Helping is not illegal.
Everything's going to be all right.
That's the trailer for the new film Green Border.
Now, I don't think this film is yet out. Well, I think it just is being released tonight, but at a live event, or like a live screening. So I don't think you can get it on any streaming services. I looked for it quickly, but may not have looked hard enough.
Premiering tonight in New York City. For more, we're joined by Green Border's acclaimed director, Agnieszka Holland. Her work has received a number of accolades, including being nominated for an Academy Award 3 times. Like Green Border, several of her previous films have centered around events that constitute crimes against humanity. Mr. Jones portrays the man-made 1930s Ukrainian famine. Europa, Europa and In Darkness are based on true stories during the Holocaust. Her HBO miniseries, Burning Bush, focuses on the self-immolation of a 20-year-old protester following the Prague Spring.
Gunshots have been going off where you live? Do you live in like a rural area?
And was herself arrested and briefly imprisoned in Prague for her involvement in the protests at the time. Agnieszka Holland, it is our honor to have you in our studio. Thanks so much for being here.
Thank you. Thank you for having me here.
Tell us about Green Border. Tell us about this remarkable film that deals with such a major crisis in the world today, how the world treats its refugees. In fact, refugees themselves play the people in the film.
Yeah, you know, I'm following the refugees crisis since 2015 in Europe. Of course, it's older than that, but that crisis, as a consequence of the Syrian domestic war, triggered the big change in European mentality and in European politics. It became clear that the fear and the hate are so easy to be spread when our borders or our comfort is attacked by the challenge of newcomers. And Europe is built by the migration somehow, but in the same time, Europe is powerless when efficiently dealing with the challenge of people of different culture, different language, different race, and so on.
Absolutely. And the problem is you know, the irony, I guess you might call it, is the fact that much of the refugee crisis being fueled by the very countries who are shunning those same refugees, whether it be environmental refugees, which are becoming a big population of people, or Western-fueled violence around the world, whether it's by troops or just by sending the weapons, you know. Not saying all of it, but a good chunk of it for sure.
So 2015 and that first big wave of the refugees triggered the rise of the populism and extreme right in European politics, and it became quite clear that Europe became some kind of the hostage of exterior regimes who started to manipulate the corridors and numbers of refugees coming to Europe for political means. It means to destabilize Europe. On another hand, the response of the European Union politicians have been very inadequate. It means they started to play the game practically. Not only play the game and initiate the hate and fear, but also to take advantage of that game, to build their own political agenda and electoral agenda on the treatment and the presentation of the refugee problem. So we became all hostages of incapacity to face the truth and to be just human and to accept and respect the laws which are the ground of the democracy. The human rights, equality, solidarity, constitutions of the countries and international treaties. So, frankly, it is an incredible mess right now. And
yeah, I like the way she puts it. Because, yeah, the humanity of people. We've been looking at example after example of countries doing very inhumane things to human beings who are just trying to seek safety and or asylum. And, yeah, it's very bad. Needs needs some sort of solution. And as somebody who is completely uninvolved in the EU, as a space being / American, I can only just point these things out and say, "Oh, that's not good." Although we do spend a pretty good amount of time criticizing the people behind many of those policies. I don't know, Marine Le Pen, Georgia Maloney, who else? There's a bunch of them. Viktor Orban, I don't know. We can go down the list on these people. I really, really hate refugees. God, there's too many. Now that I'm thinking about it, I'm realizing just how long the list is. Gotta do something about the far right problem in Europe. Hey Jerry, what do you got over there? I know you're at least I know that Britain's not in the EU anymore, but maybe you could send them like a message in a bottle. You're pretty close. Okay. Well, I hope everybody has been enjoying the stream so far. If you haven't already, hit that like button and don't forget to subscribe. Need to get the old Galactic stream to 500 subscribers on YouTube in order to make money while doing this this year's stream. But yeah, let's hang out here at the sweet Galactic pool, which, as you can see, is continuing to gain more and more people hanging out at it. See if you can spot all the new additions. Before I walk away, yes, Omega Star, your kitty is there. You can see it on this screen, just barely. And when we switch to the pool bar, you can see it in all of its glory. I don't know if it's a boy or a girl cat, but as you can see, they're hiding behind this speaker and this little bush. She. All right. Do you get one now too, Afroponics? I don't know. I think you'd have to subscribe on the Patreon, which I didn't even plug today. So, for anybody who isn't, here's the Patreon link, where sweet, sweet space benefits await you. But yeah, if you're a Patreon sub, even at the lowest tier, you can get a sweet pic or GIF added to this, the multitude of sets, actually, we have here on the Galactic stream. And I love it's filling up beautifully. I don't think anybody's twerking. I'm trying to think. Is there twerking involved? I don't think there's any actual twerking. There's a bunch of dancing, different kinds of dancing, but no twerking that I can tell. Some people are definitely getting into it with the hips. Bender bending Rodriguez, as you can see. A lot of butt in that one, if I'm being honest. Ooh, look at that. Jerry McLean. In the Twitch chat. The only place at this time, until we get the YouTube monetized by our Google overlords, the only place where you can get access to sweet galactic emotes right now. Which makes me sad, because I wish that YouTube had its own set of emotes, as you all deserve it so much. Okay. Yeah, on to global news. And we're gonna start in the usual place. Space. What order do I want to do these in? Are you gonna do bad, then good? Bad, then good. And if you can't guess what bad is, I'll give you one. Actually, I'll give everybody one guess as to what you think this is gonna be.
This is...
wait, no. Who do you think screwed up something in space? Anybody? Any guesses? I know there's a list of idiots in space, so it might take you a second, but I figured I'd give you the opportunity. Doesn't seem like anybody's... No, Mega is guessing Elon. Or not Elon. I'm not sure what that... You don't think Elon's screwing it up. Okay. Well, that's actually a good guess, because somehow it's not Elon screwing it up in space today. It's Boeing. It's Boeing. The people who, before launching into space, I said maybe this is a bad idea, are now apparently screwing up once again. As they were already supposed to have brought back the astronauts, which they brought to the International Space Station, to Earth. But those people are now stuck due to some technical difficulties.
NASA has pushed back the return of Boeing's first crewed mission to the International Space Station again. The Starliner's mission was planned to last 9 days, but as Mark Strassman reports, NASA now says the crew won't be back before July.
Ignition and liftoff of Starliner and Atlas V.
Starliner's launch 2 weeks ago was picture perfect, but just hours into the test flight, a problem.
Looks like we picked up a couple more helium leaks.
Oh, good.
All right, we're ready to copy and find out exactly what you mean by picked up another helium leak.
The Boeing-built spacecraft had launched with...
You know, it doesn't make me feel good to say that I told you so right in this moment. It makes me sad because like this is a goddamn embarrassment is what it is, okay? It's an L for America. Okay. No, but really though, in all seriousness, this is not good for humanity. Why is Boeing so shitty? They were supposed to be the best at making things fly, and now while they were making things not fly good in the regular airspace, they decided to start throwing stuff into actual space. And I feel like I said that's a bad plan, and yet
one small helium leak. Now it has 5. Starliner also lost 5 small maneuvering engines on its final approach to the space station. All but 1 were recovered, but the glitches convinced NASA to delay Starliner's return to Earth.
We want to give our teams a little bit more time to look at the data, do some analysis, and make sure we're really ready to come home.
CBS News space analyst Bill Harwood.
They're cleared to come home in an emergency. If they really need to leave right now, they could. It's not like they're stranded on the space station. But NASA just wants to get as much information as they can before the crew comes home.
Yeah, this is a risk, and it's a higher risk than most flights. It is a first flight, right, of the spacecraft with the crew on it.
We met Starliner's crew, astronauts Butch Wilmore and Sonny Williams, in Houston before their launch.
There might be a couple things that we'll be surprised by, but I think we are ready to handle any types of.
I wonder how they're feeling now, because this is from before. These two are still on that space station. Oh God. I mean, they say they're not stuck, but their ride is leaking. So, you know, they're kind of stuck. Depends on how you want to define stuck. Do you want to get on the leaky spaceship and then go hurtling through the atmosphere? How does that sound? Sounds bad. If you asked me, I'd say that's bad. I don't know if you know, but when capsules re-enter the atmosphere, if they don't have those fancy rocket boosters on the bottom, which this one does not, if I'm not mistaken, they come in incredibly fast. And they get incredibly hot. And if there's leaks, well, that's going to pose a serious problem for the people inside. Okay, now let's look at a good story, where, in New Brunswick, Canada, space lovers now have a new way to stargaze.
Right now we're standing in the Astronomy Observatory of University of Moncton campus of Wobegon, which includes a nice 14-foot diameter dome and a 16-inch diameter telescope. It's not a place, like I said, we can do big research in astronomy, but we can do really high-quality imaging and observations straight from Wobegon. So we wanted to make sure that it was accessible and safe for the community, an area where you can come and with people, families, groups, then you can observe different things from the sky. Here it's more community-based to learn about astronomy, to do observations.
I wonder how
introduce people about what is a telescope, what is the instrument, what's everything that goes with it, including cameras. And then obviously during the day and mostly at night, we can do some observations of different things in the space.
Okay, they're just gonna I'm just gonna get completely taken off of YouTube. I feel like they're just playing music at. I totally forgot about this part of it. I was just too busy enjoying it because it is cool. It's very cool. But that's the gist. That's the gist. They made a sweet, sweet observatory in New Brunswick. All right. What next? Unfortunately, some of the usual GSL chat is watching NCC right now. That's fair. And they're allowed to do that, and I don't blame them. NCC is very interesting. I watch her channel when I'm, not doing this. And she's just going extra long today. I put this up earlier, 10:10, because I knew that she had started her stream. I was like, okay, perfect. I'm going to start at 10 today, which I often do, regardless, but she's on like hour 7.5. I get, there's no way to plan around that. I was like, oh, there's like an 80-90% chance that she cuts it off at 6. And then there's those 20% chance days where she just decides that she's gonna stream for an indefinite amount of time until she almost passes out on stream. That's her thing, and I support her and what she's doing. But I can't not bring the Galactic content. It's until I literally run out of money, I'm gonna keep trying to bring you the Galactic content. Hopefully that doesn't come that day. Fingers crossed, knock on wood. Let's hope that doesn't happen. Exactly. She's marathoning today, and that's to be expected 1 out of 5 days. I think that's a reasonable statistic I pulled out of my ass just now, which you shouldn't check. There's no reason for you to check that statistic. It's just facts. I've done the analysis. Alright, let's look at another story that's not depressing. I've been trying to mix in non-depressing stories from people. This is in Argentina, where thousands gathered to celebrate International Yoga Day.
So hot right now.
Ni me llamaba la atención esto del yoga, pero realmente me cambió la vida. Dejé el alcohol, me volví vegetariana. Casi que no salgo de fiesta. Fue como un vuelco bastante diferente a lo que venía viviendo en la vida anterior.
Incorporar el yoga en la vida es dedicarse un poco de tiempo a uno mismo para tener salud, digamos, ¿no? Para conectar con el cuerpo y dejar descansar la mente un rato.
I was too busy reading chat just now. BCat asking me for a galactic graph? God damn it. Why must you check me on these things? I have a graph somewhere, just disorganized, I suppose. I'll find it at some point. Either way, yesterday/today was International Yoga Day. Celebrated around the world, and hopefully you did something healthy for your body today, regardless of whether or not you yoga'd. I don't blame you. Some people don't have the space or the time for yoga, but maybe you found something else that you did that was considerate to yourself and your body. Which we only get one of. My mother was always telling me that as a kid. And you know what? So far, it appears to be true. Not 100% on it. I'm still doing some studies on that as well. But not come to a conclusion as of yet. Okay, now to continue talking about Argentinian-related stuff. See what I did there? Let's talk about far-right Argentinian president Javier Milei, who has very recently, I think in the last day or so, gone to Europe to visit Madrid.
Argentine President Javier Milei visited the Spanish capital on Friday without seeing senior Spanish officials. The far-right leader's Madrid arrival was met with public support and protest and has inflamed tensions between the two countries. Last month, Milei met Prime Minister Pedro Sanchez's fiercest critics at a rally for the hard-right anti-immigrant Vox Party. Milei also accused the Prime Minister's wife of corruption, an accusation she has denied.
So yeah, I wouldn't be shocked to find out later that Milei was
Barcelona
in fact,
City Council has announced...
Settle down. We're not moving to Barcelona yet. What was I saying? Ah, yes. I wouldn't be shocked to find out later that he was in fact meeting with those same right-wing figures again in his visit to Madrid, considering the fact he completely snubbed the Spanish leadership, which you would think it seems strange. A strange move for sure for somebody who's been supposedly all about getting Argentina somehow more involved in the West. Apparently Spain isn't West enough for him or something. I don't know. It's confusing. He's a confusing man, not gonna lie. But yeah, let's look at these two stories regarding tourism in Europe. This is the first one's from Barcelona, or well, not from Barcelona, but in Barcelona, according to Euronews. They have decided to now ban short-term tourism rentals, including Airbnb.
Barcelona City Council has announced plans to scrap 10,000 tourist flat licenses in a bid to address the city's acute housing crisis. The city's mayor described the move as a turning point in tackling the local problem that's felt in all of Europe's major tourist destinations.
Y eso nos va a permitir poner 10,000 viviendas en el mercado del alquiler o a la venta.
I wasn't ready for translating. This happens to me too many times per stream.
In all of Europe's major tourist destinations.
Y eso nos va a permitir poner
this will allow us to put 10,000 homes on the rental market or for sale.
Del alquiler o a la venta, o sencillamente que tengan
to, in
el
short,
uso
give people the
residencial
residential use they should never have lost.
Tendrían que haber perdido.
Under the new plan, landlords have 5 years to convert their licenses and sell or rent their properties. But proponents of Airbnb and other short-term tourism...
Oh no, not proponents of Airbnb and short-term tourism. But honestly, they're giving them 5 years to actually shore up their finances or do what they will with the property. So, you know, I think it's honestly, I feel good when people stick it to Airbnb. It makes me feel happy inside somewhere. I get a warm feeling. Because I do feel like they have some real life effect on the housing crisis that we've been experiencing, not just in the United States, but in Canada and in other European countries that we talk about. And yeah, like I think I recently heard something that like it's becoming like that more people that aren't from Ireland now live in Ireland than people that are originally from Ireland. Not that, you know, I'm against immigration, but it's just interesting because I think a lot of that has to do with the fact that people like Google moved into Ireland and you know, brought along all the worst parts of capitalism with them. But yeah, you're considering going to Madrid. Wait, you're moving to Central America? I had no idea. That's crazy. It seems like you've moved a lot. Seems like you've moved a lot, Jerry. Okay, let's talk Italy, because an Italian island, or the Italian island of Capri, has banned tourists due to a water crisis that is currently happening there, which I was unaware of, but am not shocked to hear about.
The mayor of the Italian island of Capri has banned tourists after a faulty pipe deprived some of the city of water. Mayor Paolo Falco said essential services would not be guaranteed to the thousands of tourists visiting Capri daily, forcing him to temporarily ban ferry ticket sales on Saturday. A failure in the mainland's water system led to the crisis. Tankers are expected to reach the Bay of Naples island soon and deliver households 25 litres of water each.
Hello, welcome.
Okay, what is this one? You trying to perfect your Spanish first? Yeah. I wish my Spanish was better. I feel like I just hear bits and pieces of it and understand it, like, contextually from the other Romance languages that I know, but it's tough. It is tough. I definitely can't speak to people in Spanish. Okay, let's talk about the UK election real quick, just to remind us of what's been happening here and what has happened recently regarding it. If you're not familiar, Rishi Sunak declared a general election in the rain. It's like a month ago now or something. It was at least like a few weeks ago. And we've been trying to keep up with it to some degree. Let's look at this. This one from the BBC from a day ago. UK election 2024. The headlines.
Your election headlines, I'm Jane Hill. Sir Keir Starmer has accused Rishi Sunak of a total lack of leadership in his handling of betting allegations. The Labour leader says the PM should suspend the Conservative candidates accused of using insider knowledge to bet on the date of the general election.
Of course he should suspend these candidates. If they were my candidates, they'd be gone by now, out of the door. He needs to take tough action. I think he's not even saying today whether there's more involved. So he needs a full account. It's a total lack of leadership.
Well, the Prime Minister repeated that anyone found to have broken gambling rules will be booted out of the Conservative Party. Launching the Conservative Welsh Manifesto, Rishi Sunak was quizzed about party insiders placing bets on the date of the general election, but he wouldn't be drawn.
It's right that those investigations are allowed to proceed. They are independent. They are necessarily confidential, as you will appreciate. There's also a criminal investigation, and these are potentially criminal matters, and the police are conducting those. You'll be aware of that. And because of that, I hope you can appreciate there's not much more I can add.
So Ed Davey made the most of the good weather in Norfolk. Today, the Lib Dems have been focusing on their NHS dentistry policy, pledging an extra £750 million funding in England. Nigel Farage, the leader of Reform UK, has told the BBC that Europe and NATO provoked the Ukraine war. He was speaking to Nick Robinson in an interview for Panorama.
And I said, and I quote, "There will be a war in Ukraine." Why did I say that? It was obvious to me that the ever eastward expansion...
Nigel Farage is Nosferatu now. Okay. I mean, Nostradamus. Whatever. What's NCC? NCC is another YouTube channel who does more, like, less news stuff, more, but like still some news stuff, but mostly focused on, what do I call it? What do you call it? It's like platform drama, I guess, kind of like creator drama, and or like just news in the creator sphere, but mostly of like political streamers specifically. stuff relating to that. Sometimes I struggle to follow because she goes real deep on her takes, and I don't know everybody that gets mentioned sometimes, so I just kind of, try to soak it all up, but does remind me just how many personalities there are in this space we call home, if you will. All right, what was I doing? Yes, done with the UK. Let's quickly look at this. Another non-depressing story. Here we go. 11 hours ago, revelers celebrated Midsummer's Eve with traditional festivities in Stockholm.
I like it when it's nice weather because it used to rain on midsummer, but I think the whole day you like relax, yeah, just hang out.
The people is happy to meet other people, talk together.
I'm not gonna lie, it does seem very silly to run around in a line going back and forth, but somehow it looks fun at the same time. Not sure, it's paradoxical to me.
More open, that is fantastic in the summer.
I'm from Orlando.
Can you have a second emotional support character? Yes, you may. What's that? 18? I feel like we've gotten 18 a bunch of times. It's like my dice does not want to land on 17, which I know somebody wants. Although I haven't seen PB today at all. I hope that she's doing okay. Wait, why is my stream software lagging already? It's only 2.5 hours in. This is ridiculous and unacceptable. And I won't have it. Okay, this is rude. Fine. Moving on. Your mom goes to college? Your mom goes to college. Lefties are voting Green Party. That's all you need to know. That is what I have been hearing, Jerry, and I do hope that that works out. Okie dokie. Let's go on to this. According to Reuters, the Eurozone business recovery has slowed sharply.
Eurozone business growth slowed sharply in June. A key survey showed Friday demand fell for the first time since February, with the bloc's services industry showing some signs of weakening, while the downturn in manufacturing also worsened. The Composite Purchasing Managers Index, or PMI, sank to 50.8 this month from May's 52.2. Analysts were left surprised as they had expected the number to rise, though the index did at least hold above the 50 level, separating growth from contraction for a fourth month. Friday's disappointing number comes despite the European Central Bank delivering interest rate cuts earlier this month. June's data also showed inflationary pressures easing, strengthening the case for further reductions this year. The PMI for the currency union's dominant services industry fell to 52.6, below analyst forecasts.
So yeah, and this will definitely have implications worldwide. If European demand goes down, it will affect America and China and a whole host of other places. And the ECB considering even more rate cuts because of it. It could also influence the United States to cut rates, and Canada, and so on and so forth. So we will see. You know, I always try and keep track of economics, even if we don't talk about it very much. I do try and pepper it in from time to time so that we're at least aware of what the fuck the goddamn financial overlords are deciding from day to day. Watched the movie. I don't know what movie you're talking about. Oh, Napoleon Dynamite. I see. Eat your food, Tina. Okay. Now, let's look at this. We already saw this previously. I think yesterday's stream we looked at this, but I want to look at this one again. You all probably know that I sometimes like to watch certain stories more than once. But this is something of a good sign, even if it's very little that's actually happening in regards to this, but it is at least a step in the right direction in regards to all of this situation we've been talking about in Sudan for months, and which has not been getting better. Tina, come get your ham. Yeah, okay, I see you in the I see you in the Twitch chat. Where did you get that very sweet pig emote? I like that. I like that. That's very cool. What was I saying? Oh yes, we've been looking at the fucking problems happening in Sudan, from the fighting to the starvation and the ethnic cleansing. Finally, the UN peacekeepers have decided to come and visit a part of South Sudan called Nadiongere to assess the humanitarian situation, which I would call a crisis. By the way, 18 is Sam Cedar, if you didn't notice. We congratulate the UN for having built 3 classrooms for Nadiongere. We will continue to move forward to encourage people to go to school, to get an education, and to carry out agricultural activities. The government will stand together with them and work hand in hand for the development of the country.
This is your time, you're most welcome.
So it is not the peacekeepers in the military sense, because some people asked the question yesterday, as there is obviously a distinction that's necessary to be made there. So yeah, no, it is the bureaucratic UN peacekeepers who are just there to assess the situation, specifically relating to the war crimes and humanitarian catastrophe. Top chat is tyranny. So true. So true. We have a top chat Nightbot command, which you could use to remind people to be on live chat. Otherwise, they are in fact living in tyranny. Preventable tyranny, by the way. Which really makes itself tyranny. You've done it to yourself, in a way. YouTube is really well, let's be real. I'm actually victim blaming. It's YouTube's fault. I'm sorry. That's fucked up. It's YouTube's fault. Okay, let's go on to let's go talk about Russia, as they've been very, very busy boys, specifically Vladimir Putin, but also the military. We've been talking about a number of strikes that have been happening over and over again in the eastern Ukraine region. Yesterday we talked about a very disturbing situation relating to Ukrainian children being adopted to Russian parents. a very, very
illegal
sort of way. And yeah, we've also seen them go. Vladimir Putin went to North Korea, went to. He's made a lot of diplomatic meetings happen very recently. All of them essentially have been in Asia or Eastern Europe. Okay, let's start with this one. This is from 18 hours ago, where Russia has been bombarding Ukraine's energy facilities in overnight attacks. This is from Euro News.
On the same day that Russian authorities released footage showing aviation missiles striking unspecified Ukrainian army positions, the Kremlin launched another attack.
I'm being shadow banned. Being shadow banned. The Kremlin's coming after me. And YouTube just took an ad break. Wow. Wow, that just confirms it. Shadow banning is real. My software just decided to randomly stop working. That's fun. That is fun. Although the video's working perfectly fine, just won't let me switch. This is fun. So how's everybody doing today, huh? I see more people have shown up that didn't see earlier. Snexabea, choking on ashes. Jerry McLean, I don't remember if I said hello to you. Geo Dragon. And some people on Twitch, I think at least 2 people, just got hit by Jeffy Bezos' ads, which they could have avoided by subscribing or using their free Twitch Prime sub that everybody gets with their Amazon Prime subscription. Sadly, they were subjected to it unnecessarily. It's a true tragedy. Just like the software problems that I'm having right now. Come on, pal. No, my gap. Okay, do you? I just noticed somebody on YouTube by the name of David Jackman subscribed to me. I wonder if that's a David Pacman puppet account. Maybe David Pacman is now following the channel. That'd be wild. Or someone just found it funny to make a pun on David Pacman's name. I think both would be funny to me. Also, I wonder what David Pacman would even be getting out of this channel, which I feel like he would disagree with at least some of the things I'm saying. I'm trying to think of where he's even at these days politically. It's been a while since I've even listened to his show. Although, I think, wasn't NCC watching David Pacman earlier today? I was in and out, so I wasn't paying full attention to the fucking stream. And that's my fault. Alright, wait, it's working now. Yay, it's working, ha! Yay, it's working! Alright, we got Sam, we got Astrid, and I'm gonna move on to this. Pacman is progressive, I know, but I feel like me and him have disagreements on some things, foreign policy wise. Now it's off your. What was on your screen to begin with? What are we talking about? Okay, I keep getting distracted. Not that it. Not. I mean, I love the comments, but sometimes if I get to reading too much, I just completely forget what I'm doing. Oh right. All right. So Putin has visited another country that we haven't been talking about basically at all. I think the last time we actually talked about Vietnam was during a discussion about protests in the United States. I think that's the most recent context that we could even be considering. But, well, you get what I'm saying. Like, it's been a while since we discussed anything actually happening in current Vietnamese news. But Vladimir Putin decided to meet leaders in Vietnam to discuss a new security architecture for Asia.
Vietnam rolled out the red carpet for Russian President Vladimir Putin on Thursday in the capital, Hanoi. During the visit, now seen as a show of defiance to the West, Putin said he wants to build a, quote, reliable security architecture in the Asia-Pacific region. The two countries signed multiple agreements on issues including energy, although none of the 11 pacts were on the same level as the mutual defense agreement Russia signed with North Korea the day before. Vietnam's President To Lam said Vietnam will always consider Russia as one of its most important partners, and that Putin had contributed to peace and stability in the world. Russia's TASS news agency quoted Putin as saying the two countries shared an interest in, quote, developing a reliable security architecture in the region. During a news conference, he accused the NATO military alliance of creating a security threat for Russia in Asia. We see what is happening in Asia.
Good God. Look, I know why he hates NATO, right? He's made it pretty explicit, but it just feels like nobody was declaring war on Russia or considering declaring war on Russia. So it genuinely feels like a gaslighting to me, right? Like, I'm not here to say NATO has done a bunch of good stuff, but I am here to say that nobody in NATO was planning an offensive on Russia, and to claim that it made some sort of security threat is just really, it feels like and he's said it multiple times. It's not like a new thing, but it's always felt to me like just a way of, as a pretense to his invasion into Ukraine. Doesn't really hold a lot of water. Okay, now let's talk about North Korea real quick, as they have been kind of upset recently and have decided to start building a wall along the demilitarized zone, which is a definite escalation of things. It's not something that has been there for the last, 70 years since the end of the Korean War. Well, the end is hard to define since there's never actually been it's complicated, right? But you get what I'm saying. Ever since the creation of the DMZ, this wall has not been there. I haven't seen PB or FG.
An elaborate ceremony has been taking place in Pyongyang's main square to welcome the Russian President Vladimir Putin to North Korea. Pictures on state media showed ranks of soldiers and huge crowds lining the streets. It's Mr. Putin's first trip to North Korea in more than 2 decades. Well, many other global powers are keeping an eye on this visit, including another close ally of Russia, China. Well, joining me now is our China correspondent.
Oh, right. Sorry. I meant to go to this one.
North Korea is building sections of what appears to be a wall in several places near its border with South Korea. That's according to new satellite images analysed by BBC Verify. The recent activity is unusual and comes at a time of rising tensions between the two countries. The images also show that land inside the demilitarised zone has been cleared, which experts say could be a violation of the long-standing truce with South Korea. Jake Horton is in the BBC Verify hub with more.
Reunification between North and South Korea has seemed unlikely for years, but it had been the stated goal for both countries. That changed at the start of the year, when the North Korean leader...
I'll be honest, reunification always just sounded like it would... It never sounded like it was going to happen. At least in my like adult life, which is granted not that long, but long enough that I feel like I have some context on it. And for whatever, the last 15 or so years, it never felt like a real possibility. Just considering a lot of the massive differences between the two societies as they've really diverged over the last 70 years. In terms of, I mean, just so much. It's hard to even know where to start. But it would be nice. I mean, less walls, less bullets, more hugs. But it would require a great amount of change, you would think.
Kim Jong-un announced that his country would no longer pursue that ambition. Now, BBC Verify has obtained new satellite images which show that North Korea has begun building what appears to be sections of wall near the border with South Korea, which you can see highlighted here. We've identified several structures which have been recently built, which combined cover about 1 kilometre of land. These barriers are near the eastern end of the demilitarised zone between North and South Korea, which is known as the DMZ. This is effectively a buffer zone between the two countries, which are still technically at war because they never signed a peace treaty more than 70 years after the end of the Korean War. Now,
right. Thank you for explaining that better than I could today. Okay. Oh, finally. It updated. Yes. There we go. Now we have Sam on both of these screens. Was it the sandwiches hurt you? But you're a dragon. Why would a sandwich hurt you? That confuses me. Okay. Now let's look at some stuff that has been happening on the ocean in Asia. This is from 16 hours ago, where a U.S. aircraft carrier arrived in South Korea for a three-way exercise along with Japan.
Phrasing?
The goal of Freedom Edge is it is a trilateral exercise between the United States Navy, the ROC Navy, and the JMSDF. And the intent of it is to improve the tactical proficiency of our ships. The intent is to improve the interoperability between our navies. And the intent is to ensure that we are ready to respond to any crisis or
Now, this thing appears to be somewhat spur of the moment. I don't think that this was really planned a lot in advance. And I feel like this is just sort of a continuation of both sides of this sort of escalations in the Asian region, just continuing to position themselves against one another in military displays. It's a very frustrating sort of situation that seems to be continuously developing and just provides a lot of headaches for me. makes me very concerned, considering the state of the rest of the world. And things just seem to be getting worse and worse over here. And doing things like this just doesn't feel like we need to do this. I feel like they know that we have aircraft carriers. Oh, God. Okay, let's move on to this. If you missed this, China decided to essentially pin a Philippines boat on the South China Sea and board the boat. Now, don't be fooled by the name South China Sea. Just because it has China in it doesn't mean that it's all China's. And the Philippines happens to reside in this ocean, or the part of this ocean, and so yeah, this is just sort of another unnecessary escalation of the things that we've been seeing in this area. We're talking about
now live from Beijing. Katrina, tell us about,
like, we've seen the water cannon fights that have been occurring, but this is just sort of another example of people deciding that we need to take it up another notch. It's the, what do you call it? It's like the Martian and Bugs Bunny sort of thing, right? Where they're just continuously just escalating by a fraction until it becomes all-out nuclear warfare.
now live from Beijing. Katrina, tell us about what the Philippines has said about this incident.
Well, they haven't just said or described what's happened. They've released a number of videos and images really quite explicitly describing or showing what happened, they say, on June 17 when Philippine vessels undertook a mission to resupply the grounded warship, the Sierra Madre. They say that they were swarmed and outnumbered by Chinese vessels, that during the incident, the Chinese Coast Guard was blaring sirens to disorient Philippine sailors, that they were brandishing pointed weapons, including machetes and axes, and that when they boarded, they essentially acted like pirates, looting and destroying equipment. Now, the Philippine side has called this basically an act of piracy. One sailor was injured, he lost his thumb, and a Philippine general has demanded that all the confiscated equipment be returned and that the Chinese Coast Guard pay reparations for all the damage incurred during this incident.
And Katrina, those are some strong accusations from Manila. How has Beijing responded to those?
Not great.
Absolutely strong words from Manila. Very, very different language used by Beijing. They say that the Chinese Coast Guard professionally boarded and inspected these Philippine vessels when they illegally intruded into this area Beijing considers Chinese territory that it calls Renai Reef, with not only resupply equipment but also reconstruction equipment to really reinforce the...
Yeah. So, China says,
I did everything right and they indicted me.
And the Philippines says,
Illegal.
Okay. Either way, it does appear to be unnecessary escalation for something that is, you know, effectively just imperialism. And just because it's not America doing it doesn't mean it's good. I mean, they declared a tiny, like, grouping of rocks Chinese territory after building an island on it, way off the fucking coast of China, like way off. I don't know exactly how many hundreds of miles, but it's a ways off. And they're like, oh, this is us here, and if you come within, you know, what is it? It's the actual accepted distance in maritime law. I'm trying to think. Some number of miles within this coast. Oh, it's a threat on our waters. Well, if America did it, I would be here saying this is fucking dumb. And I'm going to say the same thing about China. And this is one of the dumber things that they could be trying to contest. I would say they have more of a, just to play devil's advocate, they have more of a argument for the waters between them and Taiwan than they do for this one. This one is idiotic. That one makes like 10% more sense, but is also still just the ignoring of maritime law. But you know what I mean? Like if I had to say which of those made more sense, well, there's your answer. Let's go to the Middle East, which we have a bunch of stuff to go over here today. Let's start with this one. We actually watched part of this yesterday, but I want to watch more of it because it's frankly not just a concerning trend that we've talked about previously, but the particular individual who has been dealing with having lost his job over having made comments that could be deemed as anti-Israel, whom Democracy Now! has had on this week, is not just Jewish. He's not just I believe he's technically got dual citizenship, as like I think he's an Israeli American, but he's also a Holocaust scholar. His name is Raz Segal. I figured we would watch a little bit more of this because we only watched a tiny snippet of this yesterday. Hold on. Yeah.
So just looking at Minnesota Public Radio, they said hundreds of professors have signed a letter condemning the university's decision. The University of Minnesota's chapter of the American Association of University, AAU, sent a letter to the administration. And then looking at a response from the spokesperson for the University of Minnesota, they said, members of the university community have come forward to express their interest in providing perspective on the hiring of the position of Director of the Center for Holocaust and Genocide Studies. Because of the community-facing and leadership role the director holds, it's important that these voices are heard. So if you can respond to that. And also, Professor Segal, they're still offering you, what, an assistant professorship at the University of Minnesota, but withdrew your offer as director, or not?
No. And the day on 10th of June, when the interim president withdrew the entire offer, all of it, I was still, the provost called me and said that the university is still interested in offering me the academic position in the history department of tenured associate professor. That was in the original offer as well. But I've not yet received any revised offer. So currently what the situation currently is that the official offer was officially withdrawn, and there's nothing besides that at this point. That's one issue. Look, the response of the university is ridiculous. This was a completely of the leadership of the university. It's important to say, as I said, faculty and students across the university overwhelmingly. I mean, Professor Painter and Chahot, the two professors who resigned from the advisory board of the center and started this scandal, right, are absolutely unrepresentative of faculty and students in the university. And they're furious at this because everyone knows that this was a completely legitimate hiring process. It was actually public. It also actually had a lot of community outreach, right, for people to come to the job talk, which was public. People could come, and people indeed came, also joined via Zoom, and provide feedback, provide their responses. You know, I met with a lot of people when I was in the campus visits here. So the response of the university, as if now, after an official job offer, after a professional and academic hiring process had been concluded and the job offer was made, Now we need community consultation is simply in order to blur a clear truth in front of everyone's eyes that the JCRC here, again claiming falsely to represent all Jews, is putting political pressure in a very dangerous way on a public university, which is absolutely unacceptable. It's also important to say that this is the center directorship. This is a center in Holocaust and genocide studies. It's not only about Jews. What about indigenous communities, native communities, which are very important in Minnesota?
Absolutely.
What about Armenians, which we have many communities of forcibly displaced and refugees in the Twin Cities, right? Again, the idea, this also is very, very dangerous because it feeds into anti-Semitic ideas about Jewish power and influence, right? So the JCRC here is also doing a very dangerous thing, feeding into this ideas about Jewish power and influence and intervention here. And it's simply false. They had an opportunity to provide feedback in the regular hiring process.
Yeah, it's very frustrating. And you would think it's potentially actionable that he would be offered a job and then have it taken away from him. You know, people make life decisions based on stuff like that, and it's not certainly not a normal thing to have happen. It's exceptional, if you will. It's unusual for such a thing to happen, for an outside group to be able to come in and say, hey, we don't like this guy so much, pick somebody else. Very clandestine feeling. I don't appreciate it. Sort of this just completely circumventing all of the previous process. To talk a little bit more about a particular influential group in the United States, I figured we'd listen to a couple pieces of this from Zateo. According to him, quote unquote, we need to talk about AIPAC.
Picture this. An official with one of Washington, D.C.'s top lobbying groups sits down for dinner with a journalist. The official is asked about the time their organization was caught on tape bragging about cutting a deal with the White House and whether it's impacted their group's influence on Capitol Hill. The lobbyist smiles, points to a napkin and says, proudly, in 24 hours we could have the signatures of 70 senators on this napkin. Now, that statement alone could be considered a huge scandal, especially if that lobbying group was, say, the gun lobby, the NRA, or Big Pharma, or Big Oil. There'd be headlines everywhere about the power of special interests and big lobbies, outrage from constituents and the media. A lot of Democrats would be lining up to take shots at that lobbyist. But believe it or not, that story I just told you is real, it happened, and yet it's barely ever mentioned. Because it wasn't an NRA official who said it, or a rep for Big Oil or Big Pharma or even the AARP. It happened back in 2005, and the quote about the napkin was from an official with AIPAC, the American Israel Public Affairs Committee, perhaps the most powerful and famous or infamous member of America's broad pro-Israel lobby. And today, we need to talk about AIPAC. Because despite over 70% of Americans saying that lobbyists in general have too much influence, despite AIPAC's shameless bragging about their brazen power and influence over our elected officials, their seemingly unlimited access to the people in charge, we just don't talk about AIPAC that much. Not in our mainstream media, for sure. And look, I get it. There are some very dangerous conspiracy theories out there about rich Jews controlling the government, the Jewish lobby, the puppeteers, the secret cabal that's really running the country. Anti-Semitic tropes and conspiracies that have led to hate and persecution of Jewish communities throughout history. These days, many of them are being perpetuated by Republicans who are hyper-obsessed with Jewish billionaire George Soros, who they blame for funding everything from the white supremacist rally in Charlottesville to the hush money trial against Donald Trump. And look, anti-Semitic tropes about rich Jews, whether they're Soros or the Rothschilds or the Jewish community in general, should absolutely be condemned. But that's not what we're talking about when we're talking about AIPAC. We're talking about a self-described powerful lobbying group, one that brags about its influence, puts out literature claiming that its conferences get more members of Congress than any other event bar the State of the Union, one that openly spends millions of dollars trying to unseat pro-Palestinian members of Congress. A group that in no way should be associated with bigoted conspiracy theories about Jewish space lasers or Jewish financiers, but absolutely should be associated with the wider...
Absolutely. And this is part of the problem, is that half of the people are too lazy to figure out the difference between the two. They just don't have the time or the energy, and they just say, no, I'd rather whatever, right? I'd rather do whatever people do. I'd rather watch dance vids on TikTok today. But there's also another group of people who are just completely it seems like their job is to, in fact, make it so that that distinction doesn't get made, or that trying to make the distinction is somehow anti-Semitic. And it seems like AIPAC is heavily involved in making sure that that's the case.
Corrupt, anti-democratic role played by lobby groups in general, and absolutely should be rejected in the same way that we reject, say, the NRA. And just have a listen to one of their top targets, AIPAC's top targets this year, New York Congressman Jamal Bowman, who currently faces a primary challenge from George Latimer, a pro-Israel Democrat backed by AIPAC. Here is Jamal Bowman speaking with Ziteo's Cynthia Nixon just last week.
AIPAC represents special interests in politics, big money in politics, trying to buy elections. They represent all of that. When we win, inshallah, we show the world that you can challenge power and win, right? In a big way. And that's what's at stake.
And indeed, the stakes are high in the primary race for New York's 16th congressional district, where AIPAC has already spent over $10 million trying to unseat Bowman, making it the most that AIPAC has ever spent on a race. Bowman is, of course, not the only one AIPAC is going after. According to Politico, AIPAC is expected to spend $100 million this election year as they specifically take aim at pro-Palestinian progressives within the Democratic Party. And remember, AIPAC is actually quite successful when it comes to targeting and taking out members of Congress.
Yeah, and, if you're not ready for it, there's a specific group of people that AIPAC has been supporting, and it's not leftists, it's not Democrats. It has been increasingly the right wing of the United States.
Disagree with. The ones they dislike. Take the 2022 midterms, for example, when AIPAC helped defeat Congress's most progressive Jewish member, Andy Levin, with their super PAC spending over $4 million against him in his primary. Of course, AIPAC's same super PAC, United Democracy Project, a rather inconspicuous name for a nakedly and hardline pro-Israel group, is now running attack ads against Bowman, just like they did against Levin, with many of those ads having nothing to do with Israel. They don't mention Israel. Funny that. Instead, the ads accuse Bowman of being unable to compromise, even with President Biden, citing Bowman's refusal to vote for the Bipartisan Infrastructure Act. Now, maybe AIPAC could have gone around preaching about the virtues of bipartisanship, of reaching out across the aisle 10 or 20 years ago, back when the organization was widely considered to be bipartisan. But today that bipartisanship is long gone. AIPAC panders more and more to the far right. In fact, AIPAC's targeting of progressives has turned them into the perfect vessel for GOP megadonors trying to kill progressive policies. And looky here. Earlier this month, Politico reported that AIPAC has now become the biggest source of Republican donations in the most competitive Democratic primaries.
Wow. It's just a pathetic statistic. It makes me fucking just sad. Like, to have ever thought that they were... Because the fact is a long time ago, when I was younger, I would have said, no, they're probably a liberal organization. But, over time, that thought has been proven wrong. And most recently, just has been made just so clear and so evident. And it's just so gross. Because they continue to claim that that's where they are. People continue to try and claim that that's where they're at. But thankfully we have people like Mehdi who are keeping track of this kind of shit and is here to tell us the facts. Let's move on to this. to what should they I think let's look at this one. Actually, this is from 2 days ago. CNN. We've been talking about the increasing fighting going on between Hezbollah and Israel, although Israel has been doing the same thing that they've been doing in Gaza, which is completely ignoring any distinction between military and civilian targets, and civilians have been taking the brunt of the Israeli strikes. Let's just look at part of this.
Fears of an expanding conflict in the Middle East after Israel's foreign minister warns Hezbollah it would be destroyed if all-out war breaks out. Israel Katz's comments online follow Hezbollah's release of a purported 9-minute drone video that shows sensitive military locations and civilian areas in Haifa and other Israeli cities, and while tensions percolate along the northern border.
Does that count as a genocidal statement to claim an entire country will be destroyed?
With Lebanon, there's a brewing diplomatic rift between the Netanyahu government and the White House. We are connecting the dots on this for you with Ben Wiedemann, back with us this hour from Beirut. Paula Hancock's is in Jerusalem, and Lauren Fox is in Washington on Capitol Hill. Let me start with you.
Let's skip to this next one. We actually watched that one yesterday, so
Hassan Nasrallah saying no place in Israel would be safe in the event of all-out war.
If war is imposed on Lebanon, the resistance will fight without restraints, without rules, and without limits. The enemy knows very well that we have prepared ourselves for the worst and most difficult days, and the enemy knows very well what awaits it, and that is why it was deterred for 9 months.
His televised speech focused on what he says is the group's expanded military and intelligence capabilities. Now, this followed Hezbollah's release of that purported drone video showing Israeli military and civilian sites in northern Israel. Israel responding that Hezbollah would be destroyed in an all-out war.
I guess they said
Ben Wiedemann joining us from Beirut. Nasrallah also had a pointed warning for the Republic of Cyprus, Ben, saying it will be targeted if it allows Israeli forces to use its military.
Right. And so, yeah, the Hezbollah leader also threatened Cyprus, which I found to be somewhat ridiculous, just because Cyprus has a tiny military and isn't really doing much at all, aside from being a place where aid was being assembled to go to Gazans. Doesn't seem like the thing to get upset about, but maybe I'm just missing something. This was from a day ago. This is Anthony Guterres, the UN chief ambassador, who came out and made a statement about Lebanon.
I felt compelled today to voice my profound concerns about escalation between Israel and Hezbollah along the Blue Line. Escalation in continued exchanges of fire and escalation in bellicose rhetoric from both sides, as if an all-out war was imminent. The risk for the conflict in the Middle East to widen is real and must be avoided. One rash move, one miscalculation could trigger a catastrophe that goes far beyond the border and, frankly, beyond imagination. Let's be clear. The people of the region and the people of the world cannot afford Lebanon to become another Gaza.
No, we cannot. That would be unacceptable. beyond unacceptable. I have not even been considering that possibility, although we have seen quite a lot of destruction on the, as he calls it, the blue line along the border. UK and NATO bases in Cyprus? I didn't realize that. Okay. Alright, let's go to this to finish our discussion of Israel-Lebanese relations. This is discussing the U.S.'s concern about all of this. From BBC. Yeah.
Now, the International Committee of the Red Cross says its offices in Gaza have been damaged by shelling, which killed 22 people who'd sought shelter around its compound. It said all parties had an obligation to take precautions to avoid harm to civilians and humanitarian facilities. The ICRC did not say who had carried out the attacks, adding that it was the most recent incident to have endangered civilian lives. An Israel Defense Forces spokesman told the BBC that initial inquiries...
I think we all know perfectly well who's responsible for this strike.
...suggested there was no indication that it had carried out a strike in the area, but added that the incident was under review. I don't want reality. Well, that raid comes as a simmering conflict between Israel and the Lebanese armed group Hezbollah risks turning into a wider regional war. The two sides have exchanged fire across the Lebanon-Israel border in recent weeks. Hezbollah says it's fighting Israel to support Hamas in Gaza. Israel's military said that operational plans for an offensive in Lebanon had been approved and validated. Our Middle East correspondent Lucy Williamson has been to the Israeli side of the border this week and sent this report.
War empties neighbourhoods. Here on Israel's northern border, many say war is also the way to get residents back.
Were you hurt? Yes, here, I stand here.
David has refused to leave, even when rockets landed right in front of his house a few...
Hold on.
The US is pushing hard for a diplomatic solution here, but the mayor says full-scale war is the only way out.
Sitting here like lambs to slaughter, just waiting for the day they attack us like we saw in the south, it's unacceptable. And everyone understands the choice is between war now or war later. I don't think...
So, yeah, this is the thinking of, I believe this guy is the mayor of this illegal Israeli settlement, essentially. And so, you know, he thinks war now or later. That's the thinking going on for an elected official. It goes, you know, it goes from the top to the bottom. I mean, the mayor of a kibbutz, I'm pretty sure, is a pretty low-level official, but even this guy is saying the same thing that you hear, I don't know, I'm trying to think of Itmar Ben-Gvir or Benjamin Netanyahu or one of them. It's yeah, it's a frustrating situation when you think about it, because what is the future if all of the elected officials in Israel are saying stuff like this, right? Where it's just all this essentially just genocidal rhetoric, war hawkery, just like, oh, we have war is inevitable, death is inevitable. What we're doing in Gaza needs to be done regardless of, you know, sense or humanity, and it's just very frustrating. We talked about this next thing, I think, a couple of days ago, but just figured we would talk about this again. I found a different video showing the actual strike that that the Houthis carried out on a vessel headed to Israel, which was going through the Red Sea. This is a video of that attack. Now, I believe it was a boat that was armed with explosives, which was essentially driven by remote, like a drone, into this shipping vessel. Now, I think everybody who has been shipping through this corridor, or attempting to, is well aware of what the Houthis have said. They've been pretty fucking clear about their intentions with the ships going to Israel, and pretty much all ships are, from my understanding, being rerouted because of it. So I just don't understand why you would attempt to do this. But yeah. Oh, God. Okay. Now to look at the most recent strikes that have happened in Gaza. As, if you're not aware, Israel has not stopped its strikes on tent camps and other sort of civilian sites around Gaza and Rafah. According to this from a day ago, Associated Press, Israel struck a tent camp near Rafah, killing at least 25 and wounding 50 people. According to the Gaza Health Authority.
At least 42 people were killed in Israeli attacks on districts of Gaza City on Saturday, the director of the Hamas-run government media office has said. Ismail al-Tawabta said one Israeli strike in al-Shati, one of the Gaza Strip's 8 historic refugee camps, killed 24 people, while another 18 died in the Al-Tufa neighborhood. This man, Hassan Zayara, said...
Wait, there were 3 separate strikes? Why did it say 25 people? Wait, did the other one get deleted? That's weird. Must have gotten deleted. This happens once a stream.
Was 300 meters away when the strike hit in al-Shati. Half his house has been destroyed, he says, and his wife, son, daughter and granddaughter are all in hospital. Israel's military said IDF fighter jets had struck 2 Hamas military infrastructure sites in the area of Gaza City. It said more details would be released soon. Hamas did not comment on the Israeli claim to have hit its military infrastructure. In a statement, it said the attacks had targeted the civilian population and vowed that a price would be paid for Israel's violations against our people. Israel's ground and air campaign was triggered when Hamas-led militants...
Oh my god. I love how they spend the last 20 seconds. I knew that's what they were going to do. Can you guess what was about to be said? We were about to be reminded of when history started, which is October 7th. That's what triggered them murdering all those children and civilians. Yeah, okay. Okay, we all forgot, so thanks for reminding us. Almost forgot October 7th happened. It was this close. I was in serious danger of forgetting about it. Okay, well, we've made it to our final video, so great job, everyone. I'm afraid, though, that this next video is, well, difficult, to put it lightly. We're certainly not going to watch the whole thing, because it's an hour and 15 minutes long. But this came out a day ago from Al Jazeera, as they have put together a documentary called The Night Won't End. We're going to watch a few snippets of this, but it's going to be tough. This program contains graphic images that may be disturbing.
البحر لما أقعد بالبحر
When I go to the sea and I look at it, that's it. I feel as though our worries and pain disappear.
كلها راحة. البحر كان هو
The sea
الوجهة
was where I
اللي
would relax.
اللي برتاح فيها
I
لما
would sit
أقعد وأشوف.
and look at it.
إحنا حاليا رغم
Right
إصابتنا
now,
والوجع
despite our
اللي إحنا فيه
injuries and the
بنضل على
pain
قيد
we're in, we
الحياة.
are trying to survive.
يعني ممكن الشوية اللي
This
نهار
day makes things a
يهون
bit
علينا لو
easier
صار
for us.
القصف إنه في ضوء في
Airstrikes, at
ضوء
least
في
there's
نهار
light.
في شمس.
There's daytime, there's sun.
بيجي الليل طبعا.
That is a sad existence. To have the only thing you're thankful for is the existence of the sun. That's one thing that nobody ever has to worry about not being there, I guess, but just seems like the lowest possible bar. When the night comes, we are worried and terrified because the night means fear.
مرات شفط البيوت بتروح بتنزل مرات قصف بالاف 16 فدائما انا واولادي عن نفسي اطفالي عايشين بالرعب والخوف دائما يا ماما اشي بده يصير فينا كيف بدنا نضلنا طيبين.
Hiba Salem and her family have been trying to survive Israel's war in Gaza for months. After Hamas's attack on October 7th, when nearly 1,200 people were killed and more than 200 were taken captive, the Israeli government launched an unrelenting war. The destruction and civilian death toll in so short a time has been like nothing the world has seen in decades.
The number of victims, the collective punishment, the denial of humanitarian assistance very early on, those violations of humanitarian law, the violations of the right to life, all the instruments that we've established in 1948 so far have proven to be, frankly, useless. We are really as close to the abyss as we have ever been.
ويعني والله ما بنام طول الليل
I swear
بضل
I
افكر
can't
فيهم
sleep.
بطلع
I
على
think
الصور
about them all
بضل نعيط
night.
عليهم
Look at their
بنات
photos
صغار
and cry
عمرهم
over
يعني
them.
6 سنين وبنت
Young
عمرها 8
girls, they are
سنين
6
من
and 8
دون
years
ام
old
ايه
without
يعني
a
ايه
mother.
بكره ايش هي البنت من دون ام ايه يعني كل ما تقول له ماما وين
These girls
ماما.
have no mom. They ask me, where's mama?
And despite the massive loss of life and numerous allegations from human rights groups of violations of international law, the United States, Israel's main ally, never wavered in its support.
I think the US has actual knowledge that war crimes are being committed. Of course we do. They are in the newspapers and on the television every day. And we certainly have other means of knowing what is happening in Gaza. And yet we continue to provide the arms that enable these. So inherently we are complicit.
Among Gaza's more than 2 million people, no family has been spared the impact of this war. To understand that struggle, we worked with journalists in Gaza to hear the stories of 3 families about their devastating losses and what it's been like trying to survive.
Hold on. I don't think we definitely can't watch this whole thing. I'm pretty sure I'll get copy struck by Al Jazeera for sure. Beyond that, I definitely can't watch it because it's an hour and 20 minutes long. Let me just look through this real quick. I can't remember exactly all the places. To be honest, they talk to her for most of this, don't they? Yeah. Well, actually, let's listen to the beginning of this. Getting ahead of myself.
من يجي برضاش يخلص يعني حتى تصحى في الليل طول الليل بتكون صاحي بتقول بدهش يطلع
Sorry. When the night falls, it feels endless.
يخلص يعني حتى تصحى في الليل طول الليل بتكون صاحي بتقول بدهش يطلع الصبح بدهش يطلع الصبح إياد لما بيصحى بالليل بيحط راسه تحت راسي بخبي وجهه عن الليل بقول لي خلصش الليل بدش يخلص الليل شو راضي يخلص الليل طويل، الليل مرعب، الليل يعني خوف، الليل يعني انك تتذكر هند.
And yeah, if you haven't figured it out, that's the mother of Hind. The same Hind of Hind's Hall, among other references. Okay, hold on.
يعني كل مكان احنا بنروح فيه متعرضين فيه للخطر، متعرضين فيه للخوف، متعرضين فيه للضرب المدفعيات، متعرضين فيه للقصف.
This is apocalyptic. This
102 names we found were killed in one moment, effectively. But there were also allegations that it might have been 200 people who were killed. This is something we've seen multiple times in Gaza, because people are trapped under rubble for a really long time.
Air Wars, which monitors civilian harm, has been documenting airstrikes in Gaza.
What do they do? What did she do? The sick person, the children who died, what did they do? Women who were killed,
We
what
asked
did
them
they
to
do?
examine the December 11th attack.
And what happened in this strike was you had an attack on several different buildings. So when you go through our kind of investigation, you'll see that we split out all of the members of the family by which home they were in order to understand really the scale of devastation.
Look at how we have to move them. The family members of martyrs are pulling them out.
Do you know how many children were killed in the attack?
So we estimated 50 at least.
And how common was this type of attack that you investigated on December 11th?
I would say this is one of so many.
My mother, my brother, my sister, my two children. They're my only children and they're gone. My children, my son, my wife, my daughter. It's a child, just days old. He was born during the war. What did
We have
this child do?
documented time and time again
Christ.
almost 100 people being killed in a single strike. This is the conflict where we have counted more children killed in a single strike than we have in any other conflict, multiple times.
All of my grandchildren and their wives and their children and their husbands. They wake up to the news of a massacre like this. Where are the countries to stand with us and see women, girls, and boys all dead? Where are you? Watching us.
When we all look back and when we finished counting, I think we're going to see it as a typical case rather than the exception.
Oh, this is a rough documentary. I told you people, and I'm sorry for that, but this is it's just reality. All right, let's skip forward a little bit.
As a staunch ally of Israel, the US provides billions of dollars in military assistance. And from the beginning of the war, the Biden administration made their unwavering support of Israel clear, regardless of the quickly rising civilian toll or the lack of any clear military plan.
This is war. It is combat. It is bloody. It is ugly. And it's going to be messy.
You said you've asked them tough questions, but has the U.S. set or discussed any possible red lines?
No.
Good God. Jesus Christ.
President Biden takes this issue extremely personally, has since the 1970s, sees himself as a committed Zionist. One pretty senior former Israeli official said to me, the US with one phone call could stop the war. They know what the call would look like. The Israelis know what the call would look like. So Israel could not prosecute this offensive in Gaza without US support. What do we mean by US support, right? We mean bombs, We mean fighter jets.
I think in the first month or two, it had dropped 22,000 bombs on Gaza. This, of course, is a territory about the size of metropolitan Las Vegas. That's a level of devastation, as NGOs have noted, that has not been seen since the carpet bombing of Germany at the end of World War II. And I think just demonstrates the lack of attempts to protect civilian life.
Josh Paul worked at the State Department for over a decade, overseeing arms transfers to countries including Israel. And within the first days of this war, he was alarmed by what he was seeing.
By October 9th, I had written to colleagues within the State Department, senior officials and equals in rank, to say we need to think about this, about how US weapons are being used in Gaza right now. So I continue to see what we were learning from the government of Israel directly itself through sensitive channels, if there were any indications there of any intent on their part to protect civilians. And by 10 days in, none of that was happening.
Yeah, and we were all quite aware of that, I think. In fact, we've been consistently kind of yelling about that fact that there was no consideration. In fact, it's the reverse of that. Israel did everything they could to get anybody who was going to do the counting gone. And, you know, not limited, but including attacking 8 organizations to the point that they all had to pull out at different times. What now? I think who went back? Did the WCK go back and then leave again? I can't remember. I think this happened actually with multiple 8 organizations where they tried to go back and then decided no, it's definitely still too dangerous to be there. Fuck. This is gonna be tough.
أنا مصابة، أنا كل مطخوخة، هند مصابة، هند بتنزف، أنا بنزف.
Hind is bleeding. I'm bleeding.
Eventually, relatives were able to reach the Red Crescent in Ramallah to see if their team in Gaza could send an ambulance.
وصلتنا مناشدة إنه في سيارة استهدفت مركزية فارس في مدينة غزة.
gas station.
When Omar called, it was Layan who picked up.
They're shooting at us. Hello. They're shooting at us. The tank is next to me. Are you hiding? Yes, in the car. The tank is next to us. Are you inside the car? Jesus fucking Christ.
Hello? Hello? بنتي تموت معك على التليفون.
A girl dies while she's on
أنا فصلت، يعني وصلت مرحلة إني أنا في صار معي قط. يعني بالنسبة لي أنا مضرر مهيئ. بس لما توصل لمرحلة طفل شوي هون المشاعر هيك بتفوت ببعض كلها صراحة. بعد ما رجعت رنيت على التليفون على نفس الرقم اللي ردت علي ليان عليه. هون اختلف الصوت علي. بسألها بحكي لها البنت اللي كانت تحكي معي وينها؟ هون حكت لي ماتت. هون أنا حكيت مع مين؟ مع هند. انت تخبي انت وين موجودة بالضبط؟ في السيارة. انت في السيارة قاعدة؟
Are you in the car?
طب تخبي تحت الكراسي. ما تبيني بالمرة.
Okay.
After a few minutes, Omar asked other colleagues to help and speak with Hind.
The tank is next to me.
الدبابة وين؟
The tank is where? Next to me.
الدبابة جنبكم؟
Tank is next to you?
ما عم تتحرك ولا واقف؟ نزل حدا منها؟
Did anyone come out of it? It's moving.
تتحرك؟
It's moving? Yes.
هي بتتحرك جنب السيارة
It's
ولا هي
moving next
جاي
to the
من ورا
car, behind the
السيارة أو
car,
من
in front of
قدام
the car.
السيارة؟
In front of the car.
هي جاي عليكي من قدام السيارة
The tank is
الدبابة؟
coming towards you from the front of the car.
قريبة كتير؟
Yes. Is it very close?
وعم
Very,
تمشي؟
very close. And it's moving. Yes. Come get me.
As the Red Crescent dispatchers spoke with Hind, colleagues were trying to get an ambulance to her, something that would require coordination with and approval by Israeli authorities.
Ask anyone to come get me.
حبيبتي صدقيني إنه
My
عم
love,
نعمل في
believe me,
تنسيق إن شاء الله
God willing,
يزبط.
the coordination will happen.
Usually ambulances in the whole world, once they got the call, they directly dispatch the ambulances and send to save people's life. Unfortunately, this is not the case in Gaza. Any area that there is Israeli occupation forces, Israel considered as it is a military zone. That means even if there is wounded people, people who are killed and need to be evacuated, we are completely denied access to these areas. And if any ambulance try to reach, it will be targeted. That's why, in order to be able to save Hind, we had to coordinate our safe access.
While they waited for approval, the team continued to speak with Hind.
Hind
Please call
was
someone.
screaming for help, was asking again and again to come and rescue her from where she is.
Nisreen works in the Red Crescent's mental health department and tried to help Hind keep her hopes up.
هنود حبيبتي بس خدي نفس وغمضي عينيك شوي ريحي عينيك شوي لا احنا عندك. In the middle of the exercise, breathing exercise or imagination exercise, she will say, Nisreen, when are you coming to take me? And this has continued on and off all the time, trying to take her direction out of the car, out of the victims around her, out of her murdered family around her. The smell of the blood, can you imagine with me that a 6-year-old is afraid, is hungry, is thirsty, smells blood around her all the time. Dark is coming on soon, and only the phone is her hope. My voice, Rana's voice, Omar's voice, my colleagues, was her only hope.
Eventually, the Red Crescent was able to connect Hind's mother onto the phone with them.
I love you and Daddy loves you. We all love you, sweetheart. Stay safe.
احكي لها هند انت يا ماما بالراحه انت مصابه انا مطخوخه في ايدي من فوق وانا مطخوخه في ظهري وانا مطخوخه في رجلي يعني انت رجلك بتنزل دم رجلي بتنزل دم وايدي بتنزل دم وظهري بنزل دم.
My foot, arm and back are bleeding. They're on the way to you.
Finally, nearly 3 hours after requesting clearance, the Red Crescent says Israeli officials gave the approval for the ambulance to go to the scene and provided this map with an approved route.
We had to wait almost 3 hours until the green light was given. So they sent a map with a route, which means it identifies exactly which route the ambulance should take. And once we received the green light, the ambulance was dispatched.
أحلى خبر في الدنيا من عمو عمر.
The best news.
هنود هاي دقيقة واحدة بتكون السيارة عندك بس تمشي شوي شوي. محطة فارس وين وصلت؟
Yes, the first gas station.
The two paramedics who started driving to the scene were Ahmed al-Madhoun and Yusuf Zeno. By the time they left, the sun had set.
شايف السيارة أنت؟ مش شغل السيرين
You have your siren and flashing lights on. Just the lights, not the siren.
The connection to the ambulance was lost right after that loud noise.
Hanoud.
يا زينب.
Hanoud. Are you okay?
بخير هي بخير.
Yes, she's okay. Did they go down to her?
They had to ask her, did you hear a bomb now? Did you hear anything around you? And she said, yes, yes, I heard it. Her yes means our colleagues who went to rescue her had died.
The phone call with...
So, like I said, we were not going to be able to watch this whole thing today, but I just felt it was necessary for us to watch that in case anybody was unfamiliar with the story of Hind. If you are unaware, she did not survive. That ambulance was demolished, along with the 2 people that were inside of it that were supposed to go and save her. I know that was difficult, but that was only 20% of that documentary. Or maybe a little bit more, but the rest of it isn't any easier, I'm not gonna lie. Okay, well, I don't have a ton of context for that, aside from just the reason we were watching that is because of the fact that we've talked about Hind on different occasions, but for anybody who did not know her story, or in the story of how it is that she died, well, there it is for you. I'm sorry that that's what we're ending the stream with today, but it's just the only way it made sense. Well, we made it through another stream, chat. It was difficult, but thankfully we had each other. That's it for me, but we'll see each other soon. Till I see you next. You stay classy, Galactic Stream Nation. Can't forget this. This is the ever-growing list of your galactic patrons. Gabby, Goth Dogs, Aaron W, Mitty, BB, Robot Cat, Morbius Dragon, The Anti-Corporatist, Moanoa, Nadia, Mrs. Jen, Omega Star, Pitchforks Dragon, Vincent Morales, and Donald James X. That's right. All these folks that you see here in front of you have decided to help support me and what I do here at the Galactic News Network. You can too, for just a few dollars a month, and gain access to sweet, sweet galactic benefits unseen by the rest of the Milky Way galaxy. Write that down, so don't forget.
people are. Oh my gosh.
Ones in chat. I see you. I see you and your ones. Engaging. Super secret late night after hours galactic chill stream.